Welcome to a meeting of your Planning Commission, the official local planning agency for the cities of Tampa, Temple Terrace, Plant City, and unincorporated Hillsborough County. The Planning Commission provides innovative leadership and long-range vision that contributes to the creation of a thriving, prosperous community that offers opportunity, fairness, and choice in how we live, move, learn, work, and play. For more information about the Planning Commission, please call 813-272-5940. Follow us on social media or visit our website at planhillsborough.org.
Welcome to the April 14th, 2025 public hearing of the Planning Commission on Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan Amendments. We thank you for attending this meeting. Your comments and participation are encouraged. For those attending in person and wishing to speak on any agenda item, please sign the register at the rear of the room and turn off any devices that may be a distraction. To minimize feedback in the audio, all online participants in the meeting will be muted until it is their opportunity to speak. Planning commissioners should unmute themselves to indicate that they would like to speak. Please be sure to state your name at the beginning of your remarks for the benefit of the clerk. There will be an opportunity for members of the public to provide comments. When your name is called, you will be unmuted when it is your turn to speak. Please wait until the chair calls on you to begin speaking. State your name at the beginning of your comments and adhere to the time limits. If anyone has difficulties or is watching via HTV and would like to provide comments to be included in the record for the local government hearing, please email them to planner@plancom.org. For those who are not familiar with our process, the meeting will be conducted as follows. The agenda item will be introduced. Staff will give their presentation with a 15-minute time limit. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. Following presentations, members of the public may address the Planning Commission when recognized by the chairman. Public comment will be heard for 3 minutes per person. The applicant will be afforded a 3-minute period of rebuttal response. Planning commissioners will then ask questions. Public comment will be closed. Then upon a motion, a second and discussion vote will be taken. To all participants, please note that tonight's hearings concerns proposed changes to the comprehensive plan. Presentations should not include matters related to zoning applications and site plans that are not before the commission. Zoning conditions are not relevant to plan amendments and may not be considered by the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission's purview in making a recommendation is limited to consistency or inconsistency with the comprehensive plan. With that, I'd like to ask the clerk to please go ahead and call roll.
Bowden.
Here.
Buzza. Cardenas.
Here.
Kona.
Here.
Kress. Linkos. Lauk. Soria. Sieben. Orton.
Here.
Barry.
Here.
Joseph.
Here.
You have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. All right, before we jump into the fun tonight, we had two items, 2I and 2J, HCCPA 2508 and HCCPA 2507 that had a request for continuance to June 9th. And so if we want to entertain that as a board, it would take a motion by one of the commissioners to allow for that.
Motion to allow for a continuance to be continued until June 9th.
All right, so that's a motion of continuance for items 2I and 2J to be continued until June 9th. Is there a second?
Second motion.
All right, a second by Commissioner Bowden. Are there any questions or discussions among commissioners before we vote? Seeing none, would all signify their agreement by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Oh, hang on for just a moment. All right, back to business. Sorry for the aside. Our first agenda item tonight is action item 2A, HCCPA 24-33, Comprehensive Plan Text Amendment, 1620 South Dover Road, Urban Service Area Expansion, and the presenter is Jillian Massey.
Good evening. I'm Jillian Massey with Planning Commission staff. I'll be presenting HCCPA 24-33, which is 1620 South Dover Road, Urban Service Area Expansion. This request is a privately initiated text amendment to expand the urban service area to include approximately 31.83 acres that's designated as residential 1. There is an associated proposed map amendment, HCCPA 24-34, to change the designation to residential 4, which I'll present following this. The location of this plan amendment request is in the eastern portion of unincorporated county. It was originally submitted as part of the July 2024 cycle, which is why this is considered a text amendment. It was submitted prior to recent changes to the procedures manual. And then it was continued to the January cycle after initial consideration by the board. It's in the rural area and not within the limits of a community plan. The location of this plan amendment request, this is an aerial photo of the site outlined in pink. The blue line indicates the existing urban service area boundary. The site's located on the east side of South Dover Road, south of State Road 60, and north of Durant Road. Surrounding uses mainly include single-family residential to the east, west, and south, and the Energy Industrial Park designated property is located to the north and northeast of the site. If the expansion were approved, the neighborhood directly to the west would remain in the rural area, but would be surrounded by the urban service area. This is a photo of the subject site, which is located on the east of South Dover Road. This is an example of some adjacent residential development. The impact of this amendment would bring approximately 31.83 acres that's designated as residential 1 into the urban service area. This would require a connection to public water and sewer at a minimum. The request was sent out for agency review, and there were no objections received, and all of those comments can be found in your packet. Staff reviewed this request for consistency with the comprehensive plan and found it to be consistent with several areas. Goal 1 and policy 1.1.9 of the future land use section speaks to urban expansion areas, ensuring that growth is supported by existing or planned public facilities and services, and that certain criteria must be met for an urban service area expansion. The proposed request meets this goal in policy as there are public facilities in the immediate area. Furthermore, the site meets the criteria to expand the urban service area, which include to be adjacent or contiguous to the existing boundary, containing developable land which could address data supporting the need for expansion to support population projections, having a functional relationship to the development pattern of the surrounding area, contribution to necessary infrastructure and services, and allowing for no adverse environmental impacts. The applicant has provided supporting documentation, and agency comments on each of these technical areas were received, and there were no objections. And based on these considerations, Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed text amendment be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Thanks.
Thank you. Does the applicant have a presentation?
Good evening, Cammie Corbett with the law firm of Hill, Ward, and Henderson. We do have a brief presentation to supplement what staff provided.
Thank you. Good evening, Isabel Albert with HAF assisting the applicant with this application. Just going to pull up my presentation. If that's okay, please. That's not me. There we go. There you go. So as your staff did a good representation of what the request is for 31 acres, approximately 32 acres, that's located in the rural service area. And there is a companion map amendment that you're going to be hearing after this, as well as a companion plan development application that will be more specified development options for the site. And staff does find this application consistent with the comprehensive plan. So basically, policy 1.1.9 has 7 criteria that you have to meet. And the first one is being adjacent to the urban service area. And this graphic shows you that we are adjacent on 3 sides of the property. Second criteria is making sure it's developable land. As you can see, some area here is developable and will be more seen as with the rezoning of the planned development to see where the development is going to occur. It is an extension of the existing development patterns. As you can see over here, it's a national progression towards the north for this type of residential development. And also, we have to show the availability and capability of utilities and infrastructures in the area. And I'm going to go through these quickly. First, starting with schools, making sure that schools are located in the area, that there's a transportation network. As you can see here, it's pretty established. Public utilities are located surrounding the area. Fire station are also in the area. And then parks and recreation areas for surrounding the area for the site. And the last three requirements, make sure that there's no adverse impact for environmental resource. This EPC did look at this and did not have any objections, and they're also going to do further reviews during the plan development. The data does support the expansion need for this, as the comprehensive plan was recently adopted to update to 2045, recognizing there is definitely urban growth coming, and would not compromise the efficient use of the site. The site, as I shown earlier, it's a natural progression of the residential floor towards the site where the urban service area is going to go. These are supporting policies that staff presented to you, and there was no objections from reviewing agencies. I'm here if you have any questions.
Cami Corbett again for the record. And I just wanted to note, we did receive the comments that were received last Friday, that they were shared with us from some of the folks that are in opposition. A lot of the comments in those comments from them were related to the zoning. We're talking about where the site plan is and how many units they're going to ultimately be and where the drainage ponds are going to be. And so those aren't really relevant for your consideration. You're really just determining with this particular application, is an expansion of the urban service area appropriate in this area? And I think that we've presented evidence to you by way of your staff report and by Ms. Albert's presentation that it is. And we'll be brief. We know you have a long night. Unless you have any other questions, that will conclude our presentation at this time.
All right, thank you. We'll open it up to public comment. We had a few people sign up. I will start online just to go ahead and get those folks out of the way. Penny Martin, is Penny Martin on the line?
You're a resident. Please deny this request based on the 18 inconsistencies found in the comp and flux plans again. Over 80 petitions in opposition have been signed and emailed also. A community review was completed, and we emailed that to you guys for review. The staff and applicant submitted 4 reasons why it was consistent, and we found 18 reasons it's not. Staff says it's consistent based on the Plus Objective 4.4 and Policy 4.4.1, which states new development to be compatible with the surrounding areas. This is not valid. Have you ever been out here? Let's quickly recap some of the things I sent. So for Goal 1, the growth management for rural areas, this area is intended to provide long-term agricultural use in large lot residential area. Staff said consistent, we say not consistent. We live on 5 to 10 acre lots. This area should remain as intended for a long-term agricultural use. Moving to Goal 3 for community context and compatibility, new development should be recognized and compatible with the character of the surrounding neighborhood. The surrounding area is comprised of agricultural land use. We have cows, livestock, horses, barns. We live on 5 to 10 acre lots. Objective 3.1.2 is about gradual transition. At the public meeting, the applicant's engineer told me that they were waiting on the older folks in the area to leave, as they were planning to acquire our land so they could further expand the zoning and change the urban line to accommodate that. I was absolutely appalled to hear that. It's not consistent with our plans to change an entire area from rural to urban to accommodate one property owner. We're fine with 1 house per acre. Goal number 4, development. Community and community development, again, focuses on preserving the existing neighborhood and character surrounding this area. This plan does not even come close to what it is out here. We live on large lots. Objective A, there are no like uses of large neighborhoods in this area, none. Objective B, it does not complement our rural acreage. Objective C, mitigating all the wetland on this parcel would be detrimental to our ecosystem. and objective D, this gradual transition to obtain our land as a result of us leaving, is not even ethical to share with the residents who are living here now. This is absolutely insulting. Under 1.9, other related policies, growth management for the urban expansion area, it says it will not impede on the ag use. This clearly impedes on our ag use. It is not consistent with our rules to rezone all of us for the benefit of one property owner and in anticipation of us going away. I'll share more as I speak on the next amendment. Please vote no on this amendment. We're okay with building one house per acre, not 4. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. All right, next up we have Christina Gatewood. Is Christina Gatewood on the line?
Ms. Gatewood did not sign in, Mr. Chair.
All right, what about Michael Gatewood?
He also did not sign in, Mr. Chair.
Okay, what about David Butler?
This is David Butler.
Yes, please go ahead.
Hello? Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, this is David Butler. I don't want to repeat a lot of the stuff, second a lot of the issues that Penny brought up. There's also a lot of concern about that we really are not mitigating a lot of the adverse impacts, which we are down, several of us down land from this development, which is primarily in a flood zone A, are also in a flood zone, and concerned about that there's no comment in here from the environmental group that has been taken into consideration. So we would oppose this.
Thank you. All right, next up, Brady Harris. Is Brady Harris on the line?
Yes, this is Brady Harris. I also want to oppose moving the urban service area boundary. It used to take a lot of effort to move the USA, and now it seems like every time you turn around, you're moving it more and more into the rural areas, just on a whim. My understanding is there's anywhere from 45,000 to 50,000 acres in Hillsborough County that can already be built on. Why aren't we trying to focus and build on that properties, or those properties? Some of them have been abandoned, and some of it is already ready for prime building. I'm not opposed to one house per acre either. As I understand, like the gentleman before me spoke, there's Herndon, Whitlock, and Arts McDonald. Right next to there, there's a little trailer park. All those places are going to be flooded out. I mean, if you've ever been out in this area, if you drive down any of those neighborhood roads that I just mentioned, they all go downhill, so they'll be all flooded out. We like our rural area to stay like it is. I mean, 1 acre lot, that's perfect, or I would prefer 1 for 5. It used to be 1 for 5 out here. Somebody changed that to 1 for 1, and now this gentleman, I understand most of his property, 20 acres of it is wetland. So, I mean, it's going to cause flooding in all the neighborhoods, and that's going to affect, all of us. So I would ask you, to re-look at the inconsistencies that your planning staff did not point out. I think there was a speaker, Penny Martin, that pointed out quite a few of them. So I would ask you to please take a serious look, and I'll speak more on the next amendment when it comes up. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. All right. Now we go to people in person, and we will start off with Yvette Neiman.
Good evening. Yvette Neiman from Dover. I want to speak about Amendment 2433 and 2434. The applicant filed for a change from rural to urban on 31.8 acres with 4 per acre, totaling 127 homes. Yet, in the community meeting that West Bay Homes held on February 19th, they presented a completely different plan. There's a display board here. Yeah, I don't know if it, okay. Okay, good enough for government work, I guess. So anyway, the display board this was shown at the meeting. It shows only 2 per acre, crammed into only one of the 2 parcels. If they want to do 2 per acre, then why'd they file for urban, which is 4 per acre? If they're not building on the 20-acre parcel, then why would they need to convert it to urban? If this amendment is approved, future land use policy says they'd have to build a minimum of 95 homes, yet they're telling the community they're only going to build 62 homes. This information was given to the staff with details about what was presented. The staff said that the county was never notified about any of that and never received any info or revision related to any of what was presented to the community on February 19th. So we're all in the dark, including the county. Doesn't the county care if the applicant files a 4 per acre but tells the community not to worry, that they're only going to do 2 per acre? We don't want to be deceived, either by the county or by the applicant.
Thank you. Next up, George Neiman. And after Mr. Neiman will be Angela Johnson.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. George Neiman from Dover, a member of Fix Hillsborough Neighborhood Coalition. I sent 3 documents to all of you showing inconsistencies that 2433 and 2434 have with the comprehensive plan. We asked to get feedback tonight at this hearing on the inconsistencies. Too often we see the staff they point out all the consistencies, and they don't speak about the inconsistencies. I sometimes call it cherry picking. That is not what is supposed to happen. So it's important that the Planning Commission take into account the findings of all the residents as well. If you have a comprehensive plan, your review should be thorough and comprehensive, not I found this one and this one and this one, yet on the next page there's another one that it doesn't match with and it's inconsistent with. So we've got these 3 documents. Mrs. Martin talked about one of them, the future land use, but there are clear inconsistencies. And when I spoke with one of the planners on a previous case, I said, you guys don't consider anything we send? You don't even read it? And she said, well, you're not a planner, so it doesn't matter. The commission doesn't count it, and we don't count it. That's insulting. It really is. And I can read. I have a brain. So if it says, we promise to do this, and this, what's being submitted isn't going to do it, we should, I should be able to raise an objection. Nobody ever speaks back. Let's have a dialogue tonight, and let's talk about the stuff that we pointed out. If any of you read it, maybe you didn't read it. So we should have a dialogue. And I'll use the rest of my 3 minutes to have that dialogue. Anybody want to talk? Did you read it? Do you have anything to say? Because Mrs. Martin pointed out a lot of things that relate to transportation and multimodal, which isn't there, and reducing vehicle emissions. Those are violating those goals and objectives. Okay, I don't hear anything. Well, ladies and gentlemen in the audience and watching and listening, this is why we have the problems today. Stuff just gets rubber stamped, and there really isn't any discussion. We get up here and we make comments, and we get stone-faced looks back, and that's the end of it.
Thank you, sir. All right, next up is Angela Johnson.
Good evening. My name is Angela Johnson, and my property backs up directly to the property we're discussing here tonight. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Whether this room is full tonight or not, I wanted to make something very clear that this community cares deeply about what's happening around us. Many of us have shown up time and again because we're concerned, and frankly, we're tired. We're tired because this small rural community has been hit with proposal after proposal, amendment after amendment. I currently have 2 more tax amendments sitting on my desk, and I have no doubt that the constant pressure is part of a broader strategy. But we're still paying attention. You already know about the risk for flooding and the traffic issues that we're facing. They have been persistent and they're worsening. Peak morning traffic on South Dover Road is backed up from Durant past the entrance into my neighborhood. These are not isolated inconveniences. They're signs that we are pushing the limits of what our infrastructure can handle. We are not asking that the property owner be denied the right to build. What we're asking for is simple, that the development be consistent with the rural character of the surrounding area. It is not consistent with the urban service area. Just to the south, the homes are on 1 per acre or more acreage, or they are at a density of 2 per acre. So a reasonable balance of 1 per acre or 2 per acre would be much more reasonable. This is about thoughtful, respectful planning, not unchecked growth. Let's make a decision that reflects the values of this community and the limits of our roads, our drainage systems, and our residents, and vote inconsistent for the urban service area. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's all we had sign up in the public comment for this one, so I will turn it back over to the applicant for a response. 3 minutes.
Cami Corbett with Hill Ward at Henderson again. I want to put this slide up on the Elmo real quick. This addresses several of the issues that were discussed. There are several people saying this is surrounded by rural development. It is not. It is on 3 sides, the urban service boundary. In fact, that corner up there, that is the energy industrial park that is approved for millions of square feet of office and industrial, and most recently just adopted for residential. So notwithstanding what their development pattern is, the surrounding development pattern is more urban in nature and is trending more towards urbanization. We did not deceive anyone at the community meeting. We did a joint community meeting regarding the comprehensive plan and the rezoning. The number for the rezoning is right here on this slide. It is public knowledge. It's 241263. And anyone from the public who wanted to look up the information related to the representations made with respect to the zoning could go into optics and see that, yes, we are yielding a lower lot count, but that is, again, not here for your consideration this evening. I know you heard a great presentation from county staff today about how they plan to mitigate infrastructure from anything from drainage to water supply to transportation and mobility, and those things are being considered as the urban service area expands. And so you did hear from your professional staff, in my opinion and in my experience, they don't rubber stamp. They very thoughtfully consider each application that is put before you, and they did a very thorough job of reviewing this and finding it consistent, because I do believe that the evidence supports that it is consistent, and we would respectfully request your approval or recommendation of approval.
Thank you. All right. Over to the commissioners now for discussions, questions. I don't know if you wanted to respond. All right. All right. Any comments or questions, discussions from the commissioners on this one? Going months going, Commissioner Cardenas?
Yeah, I have a question for staff. When you're looking at it from the map, you can see that community that's directly, I guess you would say, what is that, east of this? And then you can see the other one that's right in the middle south. Do we know, they come up as PDs, do we know what the density on those?
Hi, this is Jillian Massey. Sorry, you were asking about the properties to the east of the site?
Yeah, I think right So the properties that are, I think it's to the east of there, it's, looks like a community banner, Elk Street. And there's another one that's south of there.
I'm not really familiar with the
No.
densities to the east, but I do know that it's around 2 per acre. But there is the neighborhood to the north.
Okay, so maybe it's to the west, sorry.
Yeah, the northwest.
Yes, sorry, northwest, sorry about that.
Right. I don't know about the average lot size, but
Mhm.
I did look around, and there were lots that averaged under 1 acre in that area.
Yeah, those look pretty tight, those look like. It's pretty tight, what is that, a 5,000 square foot lot? Looks like a 5,000 square foot
You're talking
lot.
about to the northwest of the site?
Yes, yeah, those are pretty small. Yeah, okay.
All right, were there any other questions or comments? I did have a question, possibly for Ms. Zornita, possibly for staff. Mr. Neiman lobbed a lot of accusations about staff saying this and staff saying that, and being told that we don't read and we don't take things into consideration. I didn't know if you wanted to speak to any of that. We've been getting a lot of things hurled at us from all over the county lately, so I'm just wondering.
Sure, we absolutely review the public comments that we receive. We absolutely take into account the comments that folks like Mr. Neiman and others provide, the information that was provided on Friday. Ms. Massey and others from the county team reviewed that information. So absolutely, we take that feedback into account. Our staff review is based on review of that information, all of the information that is provided by the applicant, information from the reviewing agencies, our own technical analysis, and then review against the adopted policies of the comprehensive plan. And the comprehensive plan necessarily has policies on a lot of different topics, and many of the policies are broad and can be interpreted in different ways. And so there certainly are opportunities where people can review the same policy and maybe come at different interpretations. I think that's occurred even between staff and the Planning Commission. In this instance, one of the primary policies that staff relied on was the policy with the criteria in which to expand the urban service area, because that is one of the focal points for this type of an application, since that is the nature of the request. And so that was the primary focus, looking at those, I think it's now 7 criteria of the to expand the urban service area, and found that in staff's review that all 7 criteria were met.
All right, thank you. Any other questions of Commissioner Cardenas?
You know, I did want to comment that every once in a while, a position does become available on this board. So if there's anybody out there that, I mean, I see you guys here almost as much as we are. You guys are more than welcome to, try to earn a position on this board, which is possible, so.
All right, Commissioner Cardenas, good comments. Are there any other, Commissioner Kona? Nope, ready to make the motion, huh? Are there any other comments, questions, Commissioner Kress?
Yeah, I'll just say that I am sympathetic And I know it's not easy to get downtown during rush hour and everything else. And if I was sitting in your shoes, I might be here too. But, you know, our purview is pretty narrow, and we are looking at a whole county, and growth does need to be accommodated. I don't like to see changes to the urban service area at all. But I think in this case, the signs point to this as a good area for development.
Good comments, Commissioner Kress. Good comments from everyone. Are there any other thoughts or questions from the commissioners before we shut it down? When once going twice, and I'm gonna close the public comment on this item and open it up to motions from the commissioners. Commissioner Kona.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone coming out here today. We do get your feedback. We do get your comments, and we come here and we make decisions, and sometimes we go with staff and sometimes we go against. But today, I'm going to recommend HCCPA 2423 text amendment consistent with a comprehensive plan.
All right, just a correction. It's 2433, and it's a consistency motion by Commissioner Kona.
Second.
All right, second to that by Commissioner Cardenas. Are there any questions, comments, discussions from the commissioners before we take our vote? And I'll signify their agreement by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, next up we have 2B HCCPA 24-34 Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, 1620 South Dover Road. Presenter is Jillian Massey.
Again, this is Jillian Massey with Planning Commission staff. I'm sorry, this is all in one presentation, so I just have to scroll there. Okay, here we go. I'll now be presenting on HCCPA 24-34, which is the associated map amendment at 1620 South Dover Road. The request is a privately initiated small-scale map amendment proposing to change approximately 31.83 acres in the Residential 1 designation to Residential 4. It's in the eastern part of the county in the rural area and not part of a community plan. As mentioned, the site's located on the east side of South Dover Road, south of State Road 60 and north of Durant Road. Surrounding uses are mainly single-family residential and the Energy Industrial Park designated land to the north and northeast. You've already seen photos of the site in the previous presentation, so I'll go right to the adopted future land use map. The site's in the Residential 1 land use category. It allows for consideration of low-density residential, rural-scale neighborhood commercial, office, and multipurpose projects. Neighborhood commercial uses are subject to locational criteria. Surrounding land use categories include Residential 1 to the east, Residential 4 to the south and west, and Energy Industrial Park to the north and northeast. There is some Residential 6 further northwest. And as you can see on the map, the existing urban service area boundary is outlined here in blue. The request is to change the site to Residential 4, which allows for consideration of low-density residential at 4 dwelling units per gross acre, neighborhood commercial, office uses, and multi-purpose projects subject to locational criteria. This slide outlines the potential impacts of the requested land use change. Currently, under Residential 1, the site can be considered for up to 31 dwelling units, or approximately 350,000 square feet of non-residential, subject to locational criteria. The change to Residential 4 increases the potential density to 127 dwelling units, and the non-residential intensity remains the same. Therefore, overall, the proposed amendment would allow for an increase in potential density. The request was sent out for agency review, and there were no objections received, and you can find all of those comments in your packet. Staff has reviewed this request for consistency with the comprehensive plan and has found it to be consistent with several areas. In this case, the surrounding land use pattern is comprised of agricultural and large lot single-family uses to the east. However, there is also a prominence of low-density suburban-scale residential developments as well. The Residential 4 future land use category designates area that are suitable for low-density residential development, as well as suburban-scale commercial, office uses, and multipurpose projects. Objective 1.2 of the future land use section notes that the rural area is intended to provide areas for long-term agricultural uses, large lot rural residential uses, and undeveloped natural areas. However, although in the rural area, the proposed change to the Residential 4 future land use category is consistent with what is directly to the west across South Dover Road, which is in the urban service area. The adjacent subdivision, which is located directly to the northwest, is similar in nature to what would be expected in a suburban scale land use category, even though it's designated as residential 1. Lots in that neighborhood range from 1 acre in size or less. And it's also supported by potable water, which could indicate that it may be considered a suburban enclave. According to future land use section policy 4.7.4, when planning the location of new residential or non-residential developments at intersections meeting locational criteria, a transition and intensity of non-residential uses be established which is compatible with the surrounding character. Residential 4 would allow for a gradual transition between some of the more rural uses to the east and the more intense uses allowed in the energy industrial park category to the north. The transition to residential 4 on the subject site would allow for development that is compatible with the surrounding area and would be consistent with this policy direction. And based on these considerations, Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed map amendment be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the applicant have a presentation?
Kimmy Corbett with Hill, Ward, and Henderson. We won't do a separate presentation on this one. It's pretty straightforward. Your plan actually directs when you expand the urban service area, the minimum that you should be looking at is Res 4. And so that is why we requested the Res 4 to be consistent with the plan, with what the plan directs. And as Jillian already handled, there's Res 4 and Res 6 in the surrounding area, and we would respectfully request that you find it compatible.
Thank you. All right. Now we had a couple people sign up online. We'll start out with them again. We will start with Penny Martin.
Penny Martin, to continue with my recaps related to Object 1.3 to utilize the land for job growth, this is also not consistent with our plans. Adding in a large neighborhood would not create job growth for any of us. The builder is the only one that would create temporary jobs for the construction workers. Goal number 5 is related to agricultural retention. Again, recognizing that the continued existence of ag use is in place. The staff deems this consistent. We feel it's not consistent. Nothing in this plan or text amendment would support the agricultural land use, farming, and livestock ranching to continue by adding in the urban zoning in our rural area. In the plan under 527, on-site buffering mitigation was going to be added to allow ag use to continue, is what we were told. Putting a fence up so we can't see the neighborhood does not make this consistent for us to retain agricultural use of our land. The land will be rezoned and our filings will also change. Under the future land use, the density and intensity review policy 237 are not consistent. Removing the wetland will cause major flooding. Sensors and connection policies 241 addresses transportation again. There are no county plans to add in any roads in this area. We are maxed out. The traffic is gridlocked already, and it's a nightmare to try to get in and out of here. We only have one road. We need to slow this down. Compatibility relates to the surrounding neighborhood character. This land is located in a rural area. We all live on 5 and 10 acre lots. There are no schools coming in. The first responders are already stressed here. Goal 4 addresses development. The goal is to protect natural resources, and mitigating the wetland will further enhance the flooding problems that we have. The land use suitability under Goal 4 addresses the community's well-being and safety. The land right next door is the former phosphate mine with a toxic Superfund site that has not been tested on all 3,000 acres. We are currently working with the EPA and the Florida Commerce Department to get testing mandated before anything is done out there. The goal number 4 related to residential use addresses, again, preserving the character of the community. Changing this area to the urban area to urban is not in character of our community. Goal 6 addresses development could negatively impact the environmental area and sensitive land. And again, we've touched on that. We can't afford any more flooding. It is not consistent with our rules to rezone all of us to urban for the benefit of one property owner in anticipation of us going away. Please review this case carefully and vote no, as it is not consistent. And by the way, I would love to get a job there. And I would appreciate a response to the review that was emailed to understand why all these goals were not addressed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have Brady Harris, virtually.
Yes, Brady Harris. I want to pretty much address the traffic concern first. I still don't understand why we're using a traffic report from 2020. If y'all remember, that was at the height of COVID, and I mean, it's 5 years later. I don't know if y'all have ever been out in this area, but it is absolutely gridlocked in the morning. I mean, some people have to leave an hour and a half early to get to work. And I was told by one of the Board of County Commissioners the other day, he pointed me out specifically and told me that after they approve stuff is when they look at the infrastructure. Well, that seems kind of backwards to me. I don't know how y'all gonna ever fix the infrastructure out in this area. There's nowhere to add roads, and and I mean the schools are, as far as I know, my understanding is one of the schools that are listed on that map that the lady showed isn't even in his zoning or district. So he's using a school that's not even in the district. So the 3 schools that are in this particular district, as in elementary, high school, and middle school, are already at capacity. So where's the kids going to go? That's 2 of the issues. I remember when like I said, it took all kind of powers to move the urban service area, and now it seems like y'all are creeping more and more into rural areas. And I mean, I can remember when Durant Road was nothing but orange groves and cow pastures. Well, guess what? That's changed quite a bit. And I just can't see how y'all just go along with this like it's nothing. I'm used to the zoning or the Melissa's team used to do their due diligence and listen to the public. Like y'all don't even pay us no attention. Just like that Mr. Neiman said, it seems like you just like rubber stamp everything out of it. And I just can't understand it. I don't see, and I on 32 acres or 30 whatever acres he has, 20 or almost 20 acres of it is considered wetland. It stays wet. And y'all are going to flood out all the neighborhoods that I mentioned earlier.
All right, sir, your time's up. Thank
Yeah.
you. All right, next up, we have Yvette Neiman, going to in-persons. Okay, all right. George Neiman?
Good evening, George Neiman. I can't resist another 3 minutes. I probably won't use 3 minutes. I don't have that much to say. So I'm going to just point out, I know Mrs. Zornita mentioned about how everything is reviewed and some things are up for interpretation, but there's some that we'd say are pretty hard not to see. And I'll give you an example. You have support projects and strategies that lead to lower vehicle emissions. This is policy 1.2.1 under mobility, and improved air quality, lower rates of asthma and other chronic diseases, or promote active transportation such as walking and bicycling. Well, there really isn't multimodal transportation there. You're not going to implement multimodal transportation for this project. So this project approved today, as is, and they've got the rezoning planned. They're going to go forward very quickly. So it's in conflict. And there's many others, but I'd like to request getting a written response to what I submitted, if that's okay. I mean, I think we're entitled to it. In mobility, objective 5.3, 5.3.6, discourage sprawl, which disproportionately increases the cost of providing and maintaining multimodal facilities and services. Well, yes, the urban service area is across the road, but what people are failing to mention is that if you look at that map, the subject area on the north side is 3.8 acres with one residence. On the south side is 5 acres with one residence. On the south side of that is another 5 acres and another 5 acres. So yes, you have urban across the road, but you have large lots, 3.8, 5, and 5, and that's north and south. And my subdivision is 2 per acre. And we're still classified as rural, so I think mistakes have been made. I thought I heard someone say that it's surrounded on 3 sides by urban. That's not true. It's not surrounded 3 sides by urban. But anyway, I've said my piece, and I couldn't become a commissioner because if you look at the occupations of all of you, most of the time, and I've followed the planning commission a long
All right,
time,
Mr. Neiman.
it's all connected to land development to get a point.
Next up, we have Angela Johnson. Oop, turn on the mic. There you go.
Good evening. I already spoke pretty much on what I wanted to relay, but I did want to just step up again and just kind of explain a little bit, because when you're looking at the map sometimes, I think that it can be a little deceiving. But South Dover Road, on the west side of South Dover Road is Valrico, and there are higher densities there. But on the east side of Dover Road, that's Dover, and we are more rural. All of that, all the way through to Turkey Creek, is very rural. Our neighborhood is a minimum of a half-acre lot, and the surrounding neighborhoods are large lots as well, 1 acre and up to 5 acres. So I just wanted to relay that and ask you to please find it inconsistent for the 4 per acre. A much lower density, like 1 or 2, would really be what is in alignment with what is currently there on the east side of Dover Road. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and that was all we had signed up for the public comment, so I will turn it back over to the applicant. 3-minute response.
Cami Corbett again with Hill, Ward, and Henderson. Again, your plan directs you to 4 units to the acre, Res 4 as the minimum density when you are expanding the urban service boundary. If it was Res 1, we wouldn't be here because it's already Res 1, right? We're going to Res 4, and that is what we've asked for. The public will all have an opportunity to speak at the zoning, where we do anticipate that there will be fewer than 4 units to the acre. Again, you heard a presentation this afternoon that is more typically the case. It's very rare that it's developed out to the maximum density for single-family residential, because we have to account for stormwater and ponds and those types of open space calculations. So it's very likely it will be developed at a lower density. But as far as changing the comp plan amendment to what the map is, residential 4 is what is consistent with what's in the surrounding area and is what your plan directs. And just also for the record, for our civil engineer, Mr. Couch, who worked on this project, he did not wish people dead or say that he was waiting for people to die. I did want to at least put that on the record, because that was a mischaracterization of what was said at the community meeting, and I want to make that clear on the record. So again, with that, we'd like to ask you to find it consistent with comprehensive plan.
Thank you. All right, over to the commissioners for questions, comments, discussion of this one. Not seeing a lot of excitement. Ms. Ornita.
I just wanted to mention that staff is in review of the application that is submitted, not necessarily opining on whether or not that is like the best land use category, but we are reviewing whether or not the requested land use category is consistent with what is surrounding and with the comprehensive plan. But just to the policy that I think Ms. Corbett was mentioning is policy 1.1.2 of the future land use section, which says to direct growth within the urban service area, all new residential or mixed-use future land use categories within the urban service area shall have a density of 4 dwelling units per acre or greater, unless environmental features or existing development patterns do not support those densities. These categories are identified as suburban or urban land use categories in Table 1.2. So, I just offer that is the policy, and again, just want to reiterate that staff was not necessarily opining like we're reviewing a privately initiated amendment for whether it is consistent or inconsistent with the comprehensive plan.
Thank you for that. I was wondering that myself about the R4 thing, why it was such a, I mean, I understand you want density in the urban service area, but if someone wanted to or could find reasons to, you obviously said there is some flexibility built in there.
There is some flexibility there,
Okay.
yeah.
Are there any other comments, questions, or discussion items from the commissioners? Not seeing a lot of excitement, then I will close the public comment on this one and open it up to motions from the commissioners. Commissioner Kona.
Yeah, motion to find HCCPA 2434 map amendment consistent with the comprehensive plan.
All right. It's a motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Kona. Is there a second out there in the wind? Mr. Bowden.
Second that motion.
All right. We have a motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Kona. A second to that motion by Commissioner Bowden. Are there any comments or discussions from the commissioners before we take our vote? Seeing none, then would all signify their agreement by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Next up, we have item 2C, HCCPA 24-43, Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment 7351, Muck Pond Road, and the presenter is Jillian Massey.
Jillian Massey with Planning Commission staff. I'll be presenting on HC CPA 24-43, which is a map amendment at 7351 Muck Pond Road. This request is a privately initiated small-scale map amendment. It's made up of 3 parcels that total approximately 19.1 acres. The request is to change the land use designation of these parcels from residential 1 to light industrial planned. The location of this plan amendment request is in the eastern portion of unincorporated county. It's part of the October 2024 cycle, located in the rural area and within the limits of the Tonawanda-Sassa Community Plan. This is an aerial photo of the site outlined in pink. It's located south of Muck Pond Road, northwest of Interstate 4 and McIntosh Road. Within the vicinity of the site, there's single-family residential and agricultural uses to the north, light and heavy commercial to the east. It's bound by Interstate 4 to the south, and there are agricultural uses to the west. Here's a photo facing south on Muck Pond Road towards the subject site. This is facing southwest on Muck Pond Road, where there's agricultural land to the west of the site. Single-family residential across the street from the subject site, facing north on Muck Pond Road. This is the intersection of McIntosh Road and Muck Pond Road. Some more single-family residential within the vicinity of the site. This is an example of light commercial that's located to the northeast of the site. And this is an RV sales establishment located further east of the site, east of McIntosh Road. And this is the light commercial to the east of the site, near the on and off ramps to Interstate 4. The site is designated as residential 1. It allows for consideration of low-density residential, rural-scale neighborhood commercial, office, multi-purpose projects. Neighborhood commercial uses are subject to locational criteria. Surrounding land use categories include residential 1 to the north, east, and west. There is suburban mixed-use 6 and public/quasi-public south of Interstate 4. There is one subdivision further southwest of the site with a designation of residential 6. And you can see in the most bottom left corner, the blue line represents the existing urban service area boundary. So you can see that we're pretty far outside of that boundary. The request is to change the site to light industrial planned, which allows for consideration of uses such as processing, manufacturing, recycling, and storage of materials as the predominant uses, including support offices, warehousing, and rural scale retail uses, which would be pursuant to locational criteria. No residential is allowed under this category. This slide outlines the potential impacts of the requested land use change. Currently, under the residential 1, the site can be considered for up to 19 dwelling units, or approximately 208,000 square feet of non-residential development subject to locational criteria. The change to light industrial planned would not allow for consideration of residential uses, but would allow for approximately 624,000 square feet of non-residential uses. So therefore, the proposed amendment would increase the potential commercial intensity and eliminate the possibility of residential development. It would also introduce light industrial uses. The request was sent out for agency review, and there were no objections received, and all of those comments can be found in your packets. Staff has reviewed the request and has found it to be inconsistent with several areas in the comprehensive plan. The change in the land use designation would be inconsistent with policy 1.2.1, as it would not support the objective of the rural residential uses and threatens the possibility of urban sprawl with industrial uses. Furthermore, policy 5.2.5 states that agricultural and agricultural support uses are the preferred uses in the rural area, which further supports the plan's desire to maintain this characteristic in these types of geographic areas. The proposed light industrial plan is intended for industrial activities, including processing, manufacturing, recycling, and storage of material as the predominant uses. This would allow for commercial intensive zoning uses that are not compatible with the existing development pattern in the general area. The potential uses cause major compatibility concerns, and therefore the proposal does not meet the intent of Objective 3.1 and associated policies relating to restricting incompatible land uses in order to protect existing communities. And finally, the plan amendment site is within the limits of the Tonawanda-Sassa Community Plan. One of the goals in that plan is to create a sense of community by ensuring that new development maintains and enhances the community's unique character and sense of place and provides a place for community activities and events. The plan notes that the community's rural character, open space, and agricultural uses, and a change to the light industrial plan would eliminate the possibility of rural residential development and increase commercial and industrial intensity, which does not protect the area's rural character and support agricultural uses throughout the community. And so based on those considerations, Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed map amendment be found inconsistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the applicant have a presentation?
Good evening. Thank you, Isabel Albert with Half Associates, representing the applicant, and I'm also here with Mr. Molloy. And I have a paper presentation. So what you have here is the size of approximately 19 acres. It is located in the rural service area. It is residential 1 future land use, but it's also located in the urban expansion area for the I-4 corridor. And it also has a zoning of planned development for commercial uses, and under review an amendment to that to request why we're asking for the LIP. It's important to look at the surrounding area. It is in the rural service area. We don't disagree with that. But this is an intersection of I-4 and McIntosh Road, exit 14. This is an active intersection where you have the RV World on one side of the property on the McIntosh Road. And on the other side of the property, as you heard, there's a Circle C and a Dunkin' drive-through. But on the subject side, it is approved some commercial uses for sales of RVs and maintenance and things like that. And then further to the west of our site, there's more commercial and wholesale distribution uses that are approved there. And then further to the west is where you have the TICO easement and FDOT land that they received. And on the south side, again, because it's a active intersection, you have the SMU 6 and Strawberry Crest High School. And why are we requesting for the LIP? The reason why we're asking for LIP is at first we looked at the SMU 6, but it is in the rural service area and we cannot increase the density. And so we were looking for a use that would allow warehouse. And of all the land use category, warehouse would be permitted in the LIP, but unlike the LI, we wanted the P, which stands for plan, which gave us some kind of comfort level to show to the public and to staff that this has to be associated with the plan development. The way it's written, it says that you, in order to address compatibility, various concerns and impact to adjacent development can be addressed through the site planning. And this is site planning that we applied for. As you see over here, there's a companion major modification that shows, that addresses the buffer, the screening, the bulk and everything, and that's reviewed through the plan development process. And again, the LIP, it was created to be located in areas that typically is not industrial, but is appropriate for these such intersection, especially located within the major transit corridor, which is we're talking here about the I-4. Another important factor here to think about, to consider is this is located in the I-4 urban service area expansion. And the reason why this area was studied is because it's on a major arterial, major corridor, transit corridor. But there's been previous studies from ULI and from the Planning Commission that looked at the area and then they fed on it and they looked at it a little bit more. And so, so while the boundaries of the expansion area still has to be studied, still has to be looked at with public participation, we felt like this was a good area to start that vision of where it could be. And the subject site, yeah, it provides a good location considering this expansion. And there's also a lot of goals and policies that supports this. You know, goal 1 is to maintain, to concentrate growth in the urban service area, but also do not ignore the urban expansion area. And it's specifically written like that. The objective 1.3, we have to think about future population, future growth of populations and jobs. And this addresses the jobs. And also, interestingly, 2.2.1 says that although this land use category can allow multiple uses, it doesn't mean that all these uses are compatible in that category. It has to be looked at by case, and this is where the P comes in, the plan development, where you do submit a plan development concurrent with this LIP, and make sure that you do address all these concerns. And then we continue on to objective 4.8. And all of all of these are reference to intersections, active intersections as the I-4 corridor and a McIntosh. You have to recognize the interstate interchange. You have to, this is where you're going to find the more intensive uses. You may have a residential land use, but if it's located at an important intersection, that maybe more intensive uses should be considered there. And again, with the LIP, we felt that it addresses the use that we're looking for, the warehouse, but also through the plan development process, it would guarantee we would address the concerns that the neighbors could have. And lastly, there's objective 7 that talks about target industries. We felt like this would be a good area with the warehouse that we were proposing to address this. And there's also mention where the Thonotasa plan. Now, Thonotasa plan is a great plan. It was created over 20 years ago. It has that vision of protecting quality of life, how the lake is there for activities, and they have the downtown. All of that is being met. But also since you have to look again at the urban expansion area, the I-4 corridors, which is that pink, covers half of Thonotasa. It does have that vision of where eventually the growth is going to be. It's not addressed in the current plan because it's a bit outdated, but I think something is something that needs to be looked at. That concludes my presentation, and I have here Mr. Malloy if we have any questions that he can answer, as well as the applicant. But thank you.
Thank you. All right. It doesn't look like we had anyone sign up for this one. So I'm going to send it right over to the commissioners for.
Commissioner, did I hear correctly? No public comment?
You identify yourself first.
William Malloy, 325 South Boulevard.
Yeah,
Warren, James.
it doesn't look like we had anyone sign up for it.
Very good. If I may, just a brief statement. We did file this under the LIP with a very particular intent of providing a plan. And I very much respect these proceedings. I'm not going to introduce a plan or even talk about it. But if anyone has questions about the particularities of our plan and what we're doing to make this a much better LI project than maybe what it looks like apparently just on paper is 4 lines, we're happy to educate you on that. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you. All right. Over to the commissioners now for questions, comments, discussions. Commissioner Sieben.
So we're not allowed to ask about the plan, right?
Well, about the zoning. I mean, zoning's not really our purview, so we can't take that into consideration, is what my answer would be. Is that a good answer, Trixie? Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay, so any plan that he may or may not have for this project should not be considered by us at this time.
If you're talking about a zoning, yes.
Okay.
You said plan is the reason I hesitated.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is consistency with the comprehensive plan.
Mm-hmm.
The zoning code is a whole different layer of issues as opposed to what the long-term, long-range comprehensive plan is.
Sure.
And they're not appropriate for discussion in terms of decision-making.
Sure. Well, it just seems that they selected this plan category because they had a plan. So that's why I was asking if it was appropriate for us to hear said plan, since they selected this future land use category based on the plan.
Well, the short answer is no.
Okay.
This is not unlike
Sure.
other plan amendments to come along with parallel zonings
Right.
that also have a plan.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I did have a question. I noticed in the staff report they don't really talk about what kind of Commissioner Sieben is hinting at, and I think we can talk about this because it is a land use category, the LIP. It's very different from LI. Staff doesn't make that distinction in their report, and to me it seems a little bit disingenuous because, and kind of shooting ourselves in, staff shooting itself in its own foot, because really in this category the agency gets multiple bites at the apple. Right, we kind of review it here, and then at some future point, there'll be a zoning that we're not a part of, where it's planning commission staff in that zoning again, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to ask that question. Why is that not discussed? Because you keep saying light industrial, light industrial, light industrial, light industrial. This is light industrial plan, which is something very different from light industrial.
I do believe that the staff report points out that a plan development would be required.
Okay. Yeah.
And
All right.
and at that point in time that we would be able to review, for any adverse impacts.
Okay. And I, just on a personal level, this one's kind of, it seems kind of odd to me with the I-4 corridor there that we wouldn't want something like this there. And it's kind of a personal thing for me. Whenever you put residential stuff right up against highways, that's a precarious thing. When you're in the city of Tampa, you find out how precarious real quick because they're real vocal about it. When you're backed right up to a highway, there's lots of plastics, there's lots of rubber, there's lots of petrochemicals in the air. So for me, it seems like this feels kind of like a good place to put something like this with the I-4 and the exits being right there. I mean, obviously I'm not going to make the motion. I'm kind of serving at the du jour of you folks, but it seems to me like, this would be a good use of that space based on what they're asking to put there, all right, it's LIP, which means that at some point, some zoning is going to happen and they're going to be restricted in certain ways. I don't know what those ways are. I don't know what that zoning stuff is, but I do know they're not just going to go out there and max out light industrial and do what they want, right? It could happen, yes. Board of County Commissioners, zoning hearing master could just say, do what you want and go wild, right? But there is an opportunity, I think, to kind of rein things in. You know, again, that's not our purview. We don't have power there, but I think that's a little bit different from just light industrial or some other category like that. So to me, I could see where this one kind of makes sense. You know what I mean? So I don't know, and I'll listen to what everybody else has to say a little bit more, but I just kind of wanted to put that out there. Commissioners, did you have something to say, Ms. Juanita, in response? Or?
No, I would just say that while the residential one category, you hear that and think that means all they're limited to is residential, there are allowances for non-residential uses, allowances for neighborhood scale commercial, and that's what their zoning is allowed for, is for non-residential uses. As you can see, there are a number of things allowed. The RV use on the other quadrant of the interchange is in the residential one. So it's I understand your point. It's very well taken that it may not be appropriate for residential use, but there are non-residential uses allowed in the residential one, is all I'm saying.
All right. Commissioner Seaman.
So my question sort of goes along with that. Like, you know, obviously you can find evidence pointing in either direction for why you would support or deny. My question here is why is the overarching decision inconsistent because my question is the same. It's this specific location feels like it might be a good location for this. So I guess why was the weight given to inconsistent here?
I think like Ms. Zornita said, I think that, you know, the residential one allows for uses other than residential, and in fact, it's currently entitled for non-residential uses. And I think that the consistency finding is also heavily weighted in the desire to protect the existing community that exists and also to protect the rural character of the area. You know, the rural area policies, you know, aim to have large lot residential, agricultural uses, and, you know, the rural area mainly, the idea of it is to maintain those types of uses.
So it is rural, but there's a highway that runs right next to it. So, you know, yes and no. So what are the other uses that this category allows that are non-residential exactly?
The category allows for rural scale neighborhood commercial. So that would be like a commercial neighborhood or a commercial general zoning use. Agricultural uses, office uses, you know, they're subject to locational criteria.
So it does allow for office. How much office would a site like this allow?
It would allow for 0.25 floor area ratio.
Okay.
You good?
Can
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. O'Neill.
I would just add that, I mean, I think certainly that this is an example of a case where Jillian tried to point out some of the pluses and the minuses. It's not a cut and dry. I think we had similar discussions to what you all are having internally to staff. You will see in the staff report, this is one of the ones that we're utilizing the new structure that we've discussed with you all that has the section after the policies that we utilize for our consistency finding, a section that is other related policies that do highlight some of the policies related to the fact that this isn't an area that is in the process of being studied for an urban expansion area. It is rural today. We have to consider it as if it is rural, but we recognize that it is in an area, as shown by Ms. Albert, as in the process of being studied. We're just at the very beginning part of this. If they were coming forward a year and a half from now, we might be having a very different discussion, but we are where we are. To her point, that the Nonasassa Community Plan hasn't been updated in a while. But our job as staff is to follow the adopted community plan. That is adopted in the comprehensive plan. I don't feel like we have a choice of saying, well, it's old, so we're not going to look at it. That again is part of something that we're going to be looking at as part of this study process. But there are policies in there about, intensity around interstate interchanges and economic development that certainly one could weight greater than the policies that we chose to weight more related to the rural community and the rural development pattern.
All right. Yes, Commissioner Sieben.
I just, my thought is if this type of thing would be a concern of the neighborhood necessarily, maybe we would have more people here to talk about this. But since there aren't necessarily, this might be a good opportunity to provide some sort of variation in product type in this area, considering it is right next to a highway, and it's probably not going to be ideal for rural, residential, or agricultural for that reason.
I also wanted to ask a quick question. Do you just, if I'm understanding this, so we are studying this as an urban expansion area?
Yes, that is a master planning study, and yes, we were just in the process. You'll be seeing, I believe, at your June meeting, a scope of services with a consultant for that study. So yes, it's like at the very beginning stages of that study.
Right, but this is a
It's
target
within
area.
the
Right.
within the study area. Yes.
Makes it seem more like it. Yeah, to me, that makes me swing more in what I
But
was
we
thinking
don't know
about.
what the
I know,
results of the
no,
study
I
will be.
know.
So that's the,
I
yeah,
get
I know.
that. I get all that.
Yeah.
Okay, but
get
you
it.
know.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Are there any other questions, Commissioner Kress?
Yeah, I'll just comment that I don't think there were any agency comments, and I don't see the public here, so I tend to, I don't love to go against staff's recommendation, but I do tend to agree with what my colleagues have said so far.
And
So I
I-
guess we might need some policies.
Yeah,
right?
I was just about to say, we're going to need some policies if we are going to go against staff's recommendation, so. Oh. Okay. We'll let one of you speak. How about that?
And I do
It's a
believe that there
trade-off.
were some public comments in the packet as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, you saw those.
Well, I was just going to say.
Identify, you got to say your name first.
Hi, my name is Allie Swart, Alexandra Swart. I'm a resident near where the location is that was on the screen, and I just wanted to say yes, my husband and I, as well as many people in our community, are very concerned about this. So I just wanted to put that on the record. There's certainly public concern. So
Okay.
that's all.
Thank you.
Apologize for missing the window for your earlier comment, but thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Yeah, I'll give you an opportunity to rebut, obviously, or respond.
For the record, Isabel Albert, we did have a neighborhood meeting. We mailed out. Miss Ali Schwartz wasn't there, so I'm going to make sure that we meet with her to make sure that we hear what her concerns are.
Okay.
But we did have a neighborhood meeting as well as discussions with the neighborhood association.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Sieben, back to you.
Sorry to make you come back up here. But what was the opposition like at your meeting? Did you guys have did you resolve anything? How did
Yeah,
it
well,
go?
obviously the concerns is traffic, Macponbot Road. And then since then, there was a movement, one of the commissioners, they are actually putting some funds towards that road for the improvement of the roads, and we're going to be working with them to do our improvements of the road. And again, that's going to be reviewed all during the plan development process, but all the improvements that we're doing on both roads. And then there are some concerns about just the general environmental wetlands in the area, and just that in general, but we weren't really affecting that, so. There is a long history with that site, with the neighbors, and knowing that we reached out to them. We have more than one conversation, numerous conversations since way before Christmas. We continued this cycle because they went through the flood, and we wanted to give them time to recover from that, so we pushed it for another 3 months, and so here we are today. Thank you.
All right, thanks. See, all more reason to talk about that PD hearing, because when it goes before the zoning hearing master, I think that's going to be an important time for citizens to raise their voices and represent and be heard and stuff like that, because that's when those critical pieces get decided. We don't do that here at this level. But the PD planning land use category does allow for that, so that's kind of why I'm always kind of positive on the PD, the LIP versus the LI thing. So just my 2 cents. Are there any other questions, comments? Anybody have any more thoughts they want to add to that? I am not seeing any. Just in case we need policies, it looks like Ms. Ornita has scribbled out some. So I will then close the public comment on this item and open it up to motions from the commissioners on this one. Is there anybody out there? Anyone? Commissioner Kona.
Okay. I could go either way on this after listening to the presentation and actually looking and seeing the property. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion. HC CPA 2443, consistent with the comprehensive plan based on Goal 1, Objective 1.3 policy and Policy 2.2.1.
All right, that's a motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Kona for using Goal 1, Objective 1.3, and Policy 2.2.1. All right, is there a second out there to that motion of consistency finding?
I'll second.
All right, Commissioner Kress has the second to that. Are there any other questions, comments, or discussions from the commissioners before we take our vote on this consistency motion? Not seeing any, then we'll all signify their agreement by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? All right, we're going to have to go to a roll call. I guess we got one no, so I'll kick it to the clerk for a roll call.
Bowden?
I'll go no.
Cardenas?
Yes.
Kona?
Yeah.
Kona?
Yes.
Kress? Sieben? Joseph?
Yes.
Motion failed motion failed 3-3. Commissioner Bowden, Cardenas, and Sieben voted no.
All right. We're going to need another motion then, and some people to get convinced. Commissioner Bowden.
I'll just say that, there are some commercial usage, and I've seen in history where that those commercial usage they were able to accomplish what they were trying to do from the little information that we have in regards to the zoning. So based upon that, I would seek a inconsistent for HCCPA 24-43.
All right, we have a motion of inconsistency by Commissioner Bowden. Is there a second out there anywhere? Second by Commissioner Sieben. Motion of inconsistency finding. Are there any questions, discussions from the commissioners before we take our vote? I think you better go ahead and roll call, yeah.
Say something. I just feel like I can't say that this isn't a good place for a project like this, especially if it is going to be a PD type project where there will be control and input over what's constructed there.
Well, that's what you're voting for it to not be there.
Inconsistent is vote.
Yeah, you did. Do you want to withdraw your second? Okay. All right, so we have a motion of inconsistency by Commissioner Bowden. Is there a second out there, Commissioner Cardenas? Or anyone else who may have changed their minds? Inconsistent means that it won't be there. Like we're voting no, that the applicant. Right. Yeah. Right.
I thought, okay, I guess I'm confused. I thought staff recommended inconsistent.
We did. But the first motion was for it to be consistent.
Oh, we're voting for consistent.
We were.
I'm sorry. Okay, we were voting for consistent. We're not voting that staff was it's inconsistent with what's, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Then I messed that up.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to.
Do you need to reconsider, sir, the motion, or?
No, the motion is Commissioner Bowden inconsistent, which is staff's rule, recommendation, and now we're looking for a second to that inconsistent motion by Commissioner Bowden.
Seriously. Do we need to reconsider the first motion?
Since it was 3
It's
to
already
3.
gone. We're on to a new motion.
Okay.
Let it play out. Inconsistent by Commissioner Bowden. Is there a second out there to this inconsistent by Commissioner Bowden? I'm not hearing any. Then the motion dies, and we
Motion
open it
dies
back
for
up
lack of
again.
a second.
All right, for lack of a second, so we open it back up again for motions. Commissioner Kona?
Okay, I'd like to try this again. I'd like to make a motion to find HCCPA 2443 consistent with the comprehensive plan based on Goal 1, Objective 1.3, Policy 2.2.1.
All right, motion of consistency
Second.
finding by Commissioner Kona, a second by Commissioner Kress for Goal 1, Objective 1.3, and Policy 2.2.1. So it's a consistency motion. Yes, which would be supporting the change. Right, the applicant's change. Okay, I'm just going to send it to you for the roll call vote.
Bowden,
No.
Cardenas,
Yes.
Kona,
Yes.
Kress, Sieben, Joseph.
Yes.
Motion carried 5-1. Commissioner Bowden voted no.
All right. Whew. It's okay. All right.
Thank you, commissioners.
On to our next agenda item, 2D, HCCPA 25-01, Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment 2002, West Highway 60, and the presenter is Tyreek Royal.
Good afternoon, Tyreek Royal, Planning Commission staff. And today I'll be presenting HCCPA 2501 at 2002 West 60 Highway. This request is privately initiated, small-scale map amendment with approximately 9.5 acres. The request is to change the land use designation from residential 1 to office commercial 20. The location of the site is in the eastern portion of unincorporated Hillsborough County. This is part of the January 2025 cycle in the rural area, a wellhead protection area, not located within the limits of a community plan. This is an aerial photo of the site outlined here in pink. It is located north of State Road 60 West and south of Mud Lake Road. Surrounding uses include agricultural uses to the west and south, single-family uses to the north, and light commercials to the, uses to the east. This is looking north toward the subject site. This is a photo looking south of the subject site.
Your mic. There you go.
Here's a photo looking east of the subject site with the subject site being located to the left. And this is looking west of the property with the site being located to the right. The site is located in the residential 1 future land use category. It allows for the consideration of agricultural, farms, ranches, residential, neighborhood commercial, office, and multi-purpose projects. Commercial uses are subject to locational criteria. The site is approximately 1.7 acres for the urban service area boundary. The applicant is requesting to change the future land use designation category from residential 1 to office commercial 20. The OC 20 allows for consideration for community commercial type uses, office uses, mixed use development, and compatible residential uses. Agricultural uses may be permitted pursuant to the policies in the agricultural objective areas of the future land use section. The change from Res 1 to OC 20 would allow for an increase in development by allowing significantly higher residential density and greater commercial intensity. The density of 1 dwelling unit per gross acre would increase to 20 dwelling units per gross acre. The commercial intensity would increase from a 0.25 FER or a maximum of approximately 310,000 square feet. Anything above a 0.35 FAR must be for office or residential support uses and not retail. Planning Commission staff has reviewed the proposed application and found it to be inconsistent based on the goals, objectives, and policies of the Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, including Objective 1.4 relating to the development pattern expected in a rural area, Flu Objective 4.4 and its accompanying policies related to neighborhood protection, Flu Policy 4.4.1 relating to density and intensity being compatible with surrounding area, and Flu Objective 2.2 regarding allowable range of uses permitted in its respective future land use category. And with that, Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed map amendment HGCPA 2501 be found inconsistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. And that concludes my presentation. Mayor, if you have any questions.
Thank you. Does the applicant have a presentation?
Is that up for you? There you are. Commissioners, Todd Pressman, 202nd Avenue South, number 451 in St. Petersburg. This is Res 1 to OC 20 on 9.5 acres. We're located in the eastern part of the county on State Route 60 out near Plant City. Future land use map, as you saw, is R1. The site, as shown by the property appraiser, is in red. And interestingly enough, to the east is a very intensive site, Happy Pets, and the next property over is a large church compound that's very busy. There's a very nice forest buffer and a large intensive agricultural use on the west. So right next door is Happy Pets, Florida's trusted pet care, pet boarding, dog grooming, daycare services. You can see they have exterior animal dog use, which is an intensive use. And then as I showed you, the next lot over is a very busy church. They have a lot of events as shown on their event gallery. So the area on the surface may look very quiet and very rural, but it's actually very busy. Now, interestingly as well, the site in red, which is the subject site, is located right next door to very intensive agriculture use. So you can see that there are vehicles of all kinds, which I'm highlighting here, just a few. So what's interesting is on one side of the property line, they can do heavy, intensive, industrial type use, but the same request on the other side of the property line, they can't do, which is why we're here this evening. And this is some of the intensity with the property right next door. Now, State Route 60 highway is a very busy highway, 21,500 vehicles per day. It is a state principal arterial and is also part of the Hillsborough County Commission truck routes. So it's a very intensive roadway that this is proposed on. The use itself is agricultural. They are an agricultural support use, and that is what their activity is. And of course, you have an entire chapter on supporting agriculture in Hillsborough County, which includes support agriculture, and agriculture support uses are the preferred uses in rural areas, which is what this use would be. And support existing agriculture uses as a store component of the community, and encourage agriculture uses within and around such centers. So with that, we appreciate your consideration and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. All right. We didn't have anyone sign up for the public comment on this item either. There's no one in the room. Let me just check. Make sure there's no surprises. No. All right. Then we will turn it over to the commissioners for discussion, questions, comments, thoughts on this one. I see Commissioner Seaman moving.
Sorry, I'll try to make my brain work better this time around. The property to, this is a planning commission, the property to the east that Mr. Pressman mentioned that's more intensive, it's still the same future land use as the existing, right?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And that's also the case with the property to the west?
Yes, kennels are a permitted use in that future land use category, which is what that use is considered.
Kennels, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Are there any other questions, comments, discussion items from the commissioners? Not seeing a lot of excitement, then I will go ahead and close the public comment on this one and open it up to motions from the commissioners. Commissioner Kona.
Motion to find HC CPA 2501 inconsistent with the comprehensive plan.
All right, we got a motion of inconsistency finding by Commissioner Kona. Is there a second out there somewhere? Commissioner
Second
Bowden?
motion.
All right, second by Commissioner Bowden. Inconsistency finding. There any questions? Any comments, clarifications? No, then would all signify their agreement by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Next up, we have 2E HCCPA 2502, Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, 115th South 78th Street and 7749 East Adamo Drive. And the presenter is Willow
Mickey.
That's right.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Willow Mickey with Planning Commission staff. I am here to present HCCPA 25-02, located at 115 South 78th Street and 7749 East Adamo Drive. This is a privately initiated map amendment that is small in scale and approximately 4.18 acres. The applicant is requesting to change the future land use category from residential 12 to light industrial planned. This is the general location map. The site is in the urban service area and within the limits of the Greater Palm River Community Plan and is also within the coastal high hazard area. Here is an aerial of the site. The site is located north of Selman Expressway, south of East Adamo Drive, and west of South 78th Street. Currently on the site, there are heavy industrial and light industrial uses. Within the vicinity of the site, there are heavy commercial and light commercial uses to the north, the Selman Expressway ramp to the east, the Selman Expressway and light industrial uses to the south, and the Tampa Bypass Canal to the west. Here are some site photos. This photo is looking towards the subject site, facing southwest. This photo is looking at the subject site from South 78th Street, and we are facing west. This photo is looking across from the subject site on South 78th Street, and we are facing northeast. This photo is looking onto the subject site, facing north. And this photo is looking towards the Selman Expressway from the subject site, facing south. Currently, the future land use of the site is residential 12. Residential 12 allows for the consideration of 12 dwelling units per gross acre or a maximum floor area ratio of 0.50. This category allows for the consideration of agricultural, residential, neighborhood commercial, office uses, multi-purpose projects, and mixed-use development. Surrounding land use categories include light industrial plan to the north and east. There is residential 12 and residential 9 to the south of the Selman Expressway. And on the west side of the Tampa Bypass Canal, there is heavy industrial, and that is in the city of Tampa. The applicant is requesting to change the site to light industrial planned, which allows for the consideration of uses such as agricultural, light industrial uses such as processing, manufacturing, recycling, and storage of materials as the predominant uses, including support offices, warehousing, and retail uses. No residential is allowed under this category. This slide outlines the potential impacts of the requested land use change. Currently, under residential 12, the site can be considered for up to 50 dwelling units or approximately 91,040 square feet of non-residential. The change to light industrial planned would not allow for the consideration of residential uses, but would allow for up to approximately 136,560 square feet of non-residential uses. The proposed amendment will result in the potential increase in commercial intensity and the introduction of industrial uses and would eliminate the potential for residential development. The proposal has been reviewed by the commenting agency, which you can find in your packet under the agency review section. There were no objections. However, the Office of Emergency Management determined the amendment does not align with the objectives outlined in the local mitigation strategy. The proposed request is consistent with the following objectives and policies of the comprehensive plan. The subject property is in the urban service area where 80% or more of new growth is to be proactively directed per objective 1.1 of the future land use section. The proposed amendment to LIP future land use category would allow for an increase in commercial intensity and the introduction of industrial uses. excuse me. The proposed increase is consistent with the objective 2.1, 2.2, and the associated policies as they relate to the future land use map in the range of allowable uses for each future land use category. The proposal is also consistent with the policies that relate to compatibility. According to policy 3.1.3, compatibility is defined as the characteristics of different uses, activities, or designs which allow them to be located near or adjacent to each other in harmony. The current zoning on the subject site, along with the surrounding designations, supports the future land use change to LIP as it aligns with the character of the area. The proposal also meets the intent of 4.3.7 in relation to the coastal high hazard area. Blue Objective 4.4 and 4.4.1 require new development to be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. In this case, the surrounding land use pattern is comprised mostly of light industrial and heavy commercial uses, and is bordered by the Selman Expressway, the Selman Expressway ramp, and the Tampa Bypass Canal. The proposed request will complement the area as well as the surrounding uses to the north, east, and south. And lastly, the proposal is consistent with the Greater Palm River Community Plan. In the Planning and Growth Economic Development section of the plan, Goal 5A, Strategy 3 encourages and supports new infill and redevelopment compatible with existing community patterns that maintains and enhances the community's unique character and sense of place. Goal 5A, Strategy 8 supports well-designed compatible densities and intensities at appropriate locations. And Goal 5B encourages providing opportunities for business growth and jobs in the Palm River area. Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed map amendment be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Does the applicant have a presentation?
Good evening, Elise Batzel, Stearns Weaver Miller. Let me just find the presentation. I just want to add a couple of things. I won't duplicate what staff's already indicated. I should have worn glasses. There it is. Just very quickly, this is the existing future land use map, and I just want to add some practical implications for you as you consider this plan amendment. The property to the south across the Selman Expressway is also residential 12 at the moment, but I'll explain in a little bit that that was built out more intensely because of a flex that was approved on that site. So as you can see, the property right now, the zoning is a combination of CN, but to the south there, that is an existing PD that's currently built out with warehousing and existing industrial and office uses. I'm going to skip over this. This aerial to me shows how uniquely situated this property is. I mean, you have Adamo Drive to the north, the canal to the west, the Selman Expressway to the south, and light industrial planned to the east. And then just quickly, this is what I was noting before. There are no residential uses anywhere nearby. And the closest property there to the south that you see outlined in blue, that's the property that was developed with a flex, so it's more intense to the south. Just wanted to add that from a practical perspective for your information as you consider this tonight. We're available for any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I don't believe we had anyone sign up for this one. Nope. So I will turn it over to the commissioner. There's no one in the room, just to double check. Nope. All right. So I'll turn it over to the commissioners for questions, comments, discussion. I am not seeing a lot of excitement there, so I will go on ahead and close the public comment on this one and open it up to motions from the commissioners. Commissioner Bowden.
I'll make a motion to find this consistent, find HCCPA 25-02 consistent. This is ideal use because it takes it, you really don't want housing in that area, so I think it's an ideal use.
All right. We have a motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Bowden. Commissioner Cardenas?
Second that.
All right. We have a second to that consistency finding motion by Commissioner Cardenas. Are there any questions, comments, or statements to be made by the commissioners before we take our vote? Not seeing any. Then would all signify their agreement by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Next up, we have item 2F, HCCPA 25-04, Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, Lutz Lake Fern Road, Urban Service Area Expansion. And the presenter is Jillian Massey.
Good evening. Again, this is Jillian Massey with Planning Commission staff. I'll be presenting on HCCPA 25-04, which is Lutz Lake Fern Road, Urban Service Area Expansion. This request is a privately initiated large-scale map amendment located on approximately 295 acres. The request is to bring those 295 acres into the urban service area. There's also an associated map amendment moving at the same time as this one, HCCPA 25-03, which will be presented after this. The location of the site is in the northwestern portion of unincorporated Hillsborough County. It's located within the limits of the Keystone Odessa Community Plan, and it's in the rural area. This is an aerial photo of the subject site outlined in pink. The blue line represents the urban service area. The areas southeast of the blue line are currently within the urban service area. The site's on the north side of Lutz Lake Fern Road and south of the Pasco County border. The surrounding development pattern is rural in nature, with large lot single-family residential to the west and to the south. The smaller lot single-family that you see to the east is due to clustering. However, the future land uses in the immediate area are at a rural scale density. This is a photo looking north into the subject site from Lutz Lake Fern Road. This is a photo looking west towards Berry Acre Trails Lane along Lutz Lake Fern Road. This is looking the opposite direction, looking east along Lutz Lake Fern Road. The impacts of this amendment would bring 295 acres into the urban service area, which at a minimum would require connection to sewer and public water utilities. The request was sent out for agency review, and you'll find those comments in your packet. There were no objections. However, the Public Utilities Department did mention that the existing potable water infrastructure may not have sufficient capacity to serve development within an expansion area. They also noted that the existing wastewater infrastructure does not have the sufficient capacity to serve development within an expansion area. Conservation and environmental lands management raised the following concerns: that the increase in density of structures allowed, should the urban service area be expanded, will significantly increase the amount of wildland-urban interface, and their agency would have to mitigate to ensure public safety. Planning Commission staff has reviewed the proposal and has found it to be inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. Goal 1 in Policy 1.1.9 of the Future Land Use section speaks to urban expansion areas, ensuring that growth is supported by existing or planned public facilities and services, and that certain criteria must be met for an urban service area expansion. The proposed request does not meet this goal and policy, as there are not planned public facilities in this area, nor does the request meet all 7 of the criteria to expand the urban service area. More specifically, it does not meet the criteria that states an extension of the urban service area, the expansion of the urban service area be an extension of the existing development pattern and or has a functional relationship to the development pattern of the surrounding area of the proposed site, while ensuring the review of the adopted community plan guidance has occurred and addresses any conflicts. Policy 1.3.2 and 1.3.4 speak to additional urban expansion areas that would be considered. that depict the need for expansion in a specific area to accommodate additional population or job growth during the time frame covered by this plan, and that supporting data has not been provided. Lastly, the request does not meet the vision of the Keystone Odessa Community Plan, as the community envisions to remain rural in character. And based on those considerations, Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed map amendment be found inconsistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the applicant have a presentation?
Good evening, Commissioners. Todd Pressman, 200 2nd Avenue South, number 451 in St. Petersburg. This is the USA expansion. Jillian, thank you for a good presentation. According to the Bureau of Economic and Business Research, which is the main data source the Planning Commission uses, by 2050, Hillsborough County will have welcomed more new residents than the total number of residents residing in the city of Tampa in 2024. That's a daunting and tremendous statistic on what we have to prepare for and what we believe the Planning Commission needs to plan for. Policy 1.3.2, establish initial urban expansion areas to accommodate population, considered if the Bureau of Economic and Business Research, which I just showed you, shows population projections for a need of expansion. So by 2050, per the Planning Commission, unincorporated Hillsborough County will have 39% more residents and 43% more jobs. Jillian's laid out the site to you in Far North County in the Keystone Odessa plan. Proposed area of the expansion. The main element to see in the aerial is the Veterans Expressway, where it runs just to the east, including these parcels. Now, when you look at the future land use map, surrounded by R1 and showing nothing in Pasco County, it's actually a much different story. So when you look closer at the site again, you'll see the Veterans Expressway is the main element that you see from an aerial. The site basically is surrounding that lake area where I've noted site. You have Terramore to the east, Cheval to the south, and Pasco Ivy Lakes to the north. And when you look at the existing land use usage map, besides this large area that's agricultural, which, by the way, is not farmed, and there is no farming that anyone earns a living from in northwest Hillsborough County, virtually everything else is yellow and single family, including single family north on West County line, which would be Pasco County. So your staff did not really include looking at Pasco County. Pasco County is the abutting property to the north, which is at Res 3, which actually has a comprehension or a combined area of 4 units per acre. You can see the intensity here. You have the project site. Jillian referred to Terramore, which is the property abutting to the east, which is 243 homes on water and sewer. Pasco County is on water and sewer. You have 81 homes to the south and 78 homes south. Those are in Cheval. They're also on water and sewer. So obviously, the site is surrounded by water and sewer and by intensive residential development that is clustered. And clustering, you're all familiar with, is the process of putting residential areas together quickly. So look at the urban service area. It is surrounded on 3 sides by the USA in Hillsborough County and Pasco County water and sewer. And is in fact part of a large regional USA proposed site expansions in the center. The red areas are where water and sewer is available. So it actually is part of, in the middle of, expansion of the regional view of existing water and sewer. Now, interestingly enough, you don't really get the scope until you see the current site because there's plenty of area for development which surrounds the lake. It's a beautiful amenity. It's a burrow pit, but the development would be around the lake. And looking in the immediate area, we are approximately 500 feet more or less from the Veterans Ramp. The Veterans connects residential developments all the way from Citrus County to City of Tampa, providing access to employment centers, entertainment, airport, and the port. Veterans carry 60,000 vehicles a day, and again, we're only 500 feet more or less from that ramp. And there's a lot of expansion already planned and occurring for veterans. Pasco MPO is widening from Van Dyke to 52. The Florida Turnpike is widening the Dale Mabry Spur. Citrus County is already planning and working on an extension. So it's one of the most intensive arterials and expansion arterials. Interestingly enough, the project was $12.5 million to build that exit and enter ramp quite a number of years ago, 2012. And at that time, the legislature approved it. And at the same time, interestingly enough, the civic groups supported it. So we're building major infrastructure on the interstate ramp, but yet we're holding back on development that would be generated by it. That is a bit of a dichotomy I would like to point out to you. Loose Lake Fern Road is a county arterial roadway. Carries anywhere from 6,000 to 7,000 vehicles per day. But the project site to the north of the project site, again, water and sewer and intensive residential development, Res 3. And that was something that is not factored into your staff report really at all in terms of that entire abutting area, which would virtually match what we're proposing here today. Here's a better aerial of it, the project site. The black line is the county line. You can see the intensive development. And to take you down on the ground, this is the project site on the right. The left is project and homes. You can see these homes are abutting right up to the property line. Terramore Homes to the east, again, intensive residential cluster development. Cheval Homes on the south, intensive clustered residential development. The other element that's really important is that the site has tremendous buffering and screening. You can see just from this aerial the intensity and density and depth and wide element of that buffering. To the west, there are swales, already in place swales, and just thousands of trees. In fact, I took the picture with the cow on the right, so you could get just a little bit of scale of how big and massive this buffering is and screening. And again, on the North Pasco homes. We did ask Ortiz Planning Solutions, who is an AICP planner, to look at some of the criteria. She noted the site, surrounding the site, is of urban character and portrayed with urban density of small clustered lots. It's a tasteful coexistence of upland and lowland habitat and suburban development. Notes the significant population increase that will occur that we need to apply to. Policy consistent with the Keystone Odessa Community Plan. One critical element is centralized water and sewer systems. Now, speaking as a former chairman of the Swiftmud Governing Board, the last thing you want is a bunch of straws in the ground, taking water out, and a bunch of pipes in the ground, putting septic systems and chemicals and human waste in the ground. That is the worst thing you can do. So if you want to have protection of water resources as your paramount community plan element, you need to provide water and sewer, which is nearby and can be used and will be used with the expansion of this proposal. Rural residential character. Development of the site will be designed according to the Keystone Odessa development standards. The established rural pattern of residential development will be continued, and the intrusion of suburban-style residential development will be defined as under the Keystone Plan. Noting again, water quality goals, wetlands, open space, improving existing protection, understanding water sources would all be tremendously better under the USA expansion. Improving existing protection of water sources is a high priority. Again, excessive withdrawals of groundwater from new development that reduces both resources is not acceptable or not desired. And water quality and quality goals again. In terms of the expansion criteria, number one is adjacent contiguous to the established USA. Well, I showed you that we're surrounded on three sides by the USA. Two, contain developable land addressing population employment projections. Well, right on the Veterans Expressway, 500 feet from that ramp, this would be developable land addressing population. Proposed boundary would be an extension of the existing development pattern. I've shown you that's the case, both in Pasco, to the east, and to the south. Number four, in order to ensure the new development contributes adequately to the costs associated, the planned development applications for expansion for the urban service area shall provide analysis for availability and capacity of fiscal impacts. County recently revised its impact fees for mobility, parks, schools, fire, etc. All new developments are now required to cover their proportionate fair share of impacts. Expansion item number 5, the proposed boundary would not adversely impact environmental, natural, historical. On the contrary, I've showed you that what's proposed will be a much better situation, for environmental, natural, and historical or archaeological resources which may be on the site. Item number 6, data supports the need for expansion of the USA to provide the projected population. I've shown you that under Bieber, there is a tremendous increase in population. This would be perfectly placed and consistent and compatible with development that's existing. Number 7, the proposed boundary would not compromise the efficient use of land and provision of public services. That would not be the case, as our planner has looked that over. She's reviewed that criteria. That's part of her plan. But this would be an efficient use of land, as is beautifully presented with a beautiful lake effect and thousands of trees of buffering and screening surrounding the site. The area of application, the yellow, is a very small area of the Keystone Odessa community area or community plan. It's at a point that is really small and distinct and enclosed. We consider it really like an enclave because it is different than the rest of the Keystone Odessa area. There's no other area that virtually abuts an expressway, that abuts intensive residential development to the north of Pasco and the other communities I've shown you. It really is a unique element and an enclave that we consider of the Keystone Odessa area. USA on 3 sides, abutting higher density residential, located in a major arterial, tremendous buffering and screening, located at the border, more or less the border of the district. Water is abutting, wastewater is available nearby. As far as we can see, there's no other property in the entire Keystone community, Odessa Keystone community, that has these same unique elements that scream for the change that we're asking for tonight. And of course, you have a whole chapter, an entire chapter in your comprehensive plan about providing housing and different types of housing, which this would provide. So with that, we appreciate your consideration. There's a lot of folks here. We have respect for everyone here today. We want to hear their comments, and we appreciate the board's consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We had one person sign.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I apologize. I did have one more slide, if I may, real quick.
Okay.
I apologize. If we could put this one slide up, please. I did want to note, and again, I apologize, Mr. Chairman. The staff report notes that the site is in the AE, but what I wanted to point out is while a large area of the site is under AE, most of the site, or the site that would be developed, is at the X, as noted here. So it is high and dry, and development would occur around the lake, which by aerial looks real thin, but on the ground, as I showed you by a picture or two, is actually a very large area. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We had a couple people sign up in person, but only one person sign up virtually, so I will start off with the virtual individual. And Priya K.
Miss K did not sign up.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
We will
Yes, sir.
go to individuals in the room, and we will start off with Beth White. Is Beth White here? Okay. All right. Please identify yourself.
My name is Jane Whitehurst, and I'm representing the Keystone Civic Association and its members, and we are in opposition to HC CPA 25-04. This location is in Keystone, Odessa, and falls under the Keystone Odessa Community Plan. And while Keystone Odessa abuts both Pasco and Pinellas counties, we are located in Hillsborough County. The Keystone Odessa Community Plan was established in 2001 and reaffirmed in 2011. It should be noted that Mr. Dibbs and/or his representative attended meetings regarding adoption of the plan and the plan update. The Keystone Community Plan has many provisions to discourage high density and sprawl in our community. An exemption from extensions of utilities and the flex provision are two examples that directly correlate to denying this urban area expansion. Last year, we as a community fought to be exempt from the county water and wastewater policy amendment, which expanded utilities into the rural service area. We held a public meeting with the Plan Hillsborough representatives on February 15, 2024 at the Keystone Park and Recreation Center, presented to Plan Hillsborough BOCC at a public meeting on April 8, 2024, and a unanimous vote from Hillsborough County BOCC at a public meeting on August 8, 2024, were exempted from this policy. Mr. Dibbs was unsuccessful in his 2015 lawsuit, case number 15 CA 000257, against Hillsborough County to be exempt from the Keystone Odessa Community Plan, and was unsuccessful in his appeal of the judgment, reference appellate case number 15-10152. As noted in appellate case number 15-10152, Dibbs also sought to be included in an urban service area and requested a clearing permit for a wildlife habitat. These requests were denied, and Dibbs did not seek judicial review. Please deny this amendment.
Thank you. All right. Next up, Melissa Nordbeck.
Melissa Nordbeck. The Keystone Odessa Comprehensive Plan was adopted in 2001 and readopted in 2011 to preserve the predominantly rural character of the community and sets out guidelines for the use of the land, including for the density of new residential development, construction of streets and roadways, and prohibiting the extension of central utilities and the use of the flex provision. It does not allow density credits for wetland mitigation. The community plan goals are evident from the document itself: preserving natural areas and resources, maintaining an ecological balance, and protecting the area from suburban and urban sprawl. This property is located within Keystone, not Pasco County. The 100-year floodplain is classified as a significant wildlife habitat, and the majority of the acreage is wetlands. In 2008 and 2009, the applicant petitioned the county to have this property removed from the Keystone Comprehensive Plan, to have it included in the urban service area in order to rezone to a higher density, and requested a clearing permit for the wildlife habitat. All were denied. The applicant sued the county, and the court upheld the county's decision, citing the county's refusal to allow Dibbs to build a dense residential development on his Lutz Lake Fern Road property is rationally related to its goal of protecting the area from urban sprawl. The county and the courts have already shown precedent to deny this urban area expansion and the rezoning request. Please issue a ruling of inconsistent. And also, as a point of order, I just want to point out that if a citizen had jumped to the podium during board discussion, your reaction would have been much different than when a lawyer did it. And I believe that's what Mr. Neiman's earlier comments were alluding to, that type of disparity between the professional group and the citizens that speak before you.
Next up, we have Brittany Berry.
Good evening. I am not Brittany, I am Ethel Hammer, but I wanted to ask the Commission's permission. I have developed a presentation, since I'm limited to 3 minutes, that I've divided into 4 parts. So could we go in order? We're all signed up.
You have 3 minutes. And that's
Correct, correct. So rather than take us out of order with respect to the presentation, could we go in the order?
Who else
Brittany
is?
would be after me.
Okay, all of you come up here at once then, and you can be the
Okay.
next. Who else is there? Get your 4, get your group there. Okay, there you go. All right. And you are behind you?
Everything will happen.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
Shall I begin?
Yes.
Okay, great. My name is Ethel Hammer. I live at 19825 Angel Lane in Odessa, and I live immediately adjacent to this requested application. I am a professional land use planner. I have been qualified as an expert in the land planning field in 37 different counties in the state of Florida, and I've filed numerous plan amendments in many jurisdictions, so I'm very familiar with the qualifications and requirements for an appropriate application. And this evening, I'm going to demonstrate to you why this application is flawed and deficient. My comments and the three speakers that follow me will focus on how the application has not provided sufficient data and analysis as required by Policy 1.1.9, and therefore has not developed convincing evidence to support their request. So I'm going to start with Policy 1.1.9.3, which requires that the movement of the urban service area boundary be an extension of the existing development pattern and specifically reviewed in light of the community plan. I want you to notice that when Mr. Pressman showed you the graphics, he basically eliminated all of our community west of the application. He focused on Pasco County, which of course is not relevant to this application, and he focused on the property to the east, Harrimore, which is only 1 unit to the acre. Policy 1.1.9.4 requires an analysis of 3 aspects of potential infrastructure: availability, capacity, and fiscal impacts. So if we start with schools, the applicant submitted an analysis that shows that the elementary, middle, and high schools in the district will either be at or over capacity with the addition of students from the proposed project. The projected number of students generated by this project will approximately double the number of students at Hammond Elementary, and it will create a 20% increase in students at Martinez Middle School and a 6% increase at Steinbrenner High School. To address their impact, the applicant suggests that the school board should either do a redistricting or build some new schools. The fiscal analysis suggests that tax dollars will pay for the new schools. Of course, this isn't a credible solution, given the diversion of funds from public schools to private educational options.
All right, that's your time, ma'am. Next up.
Okay, next is Brittany.
Hello, Brittany Berry. I'm a business owner in Hillsborough and Pasco County, doctor of physical therapy, but today I come to you as a mother and a resident that abuts the western edge. So I live on Berry Acres Lane. My father-in-law and mother-in-law live with me, who's coming after me, and I'm a mother of a 1 and a 5-year-old. So I'll continue with the presentation and maybe add some anecdote if I can. Transportation, the impact of the addition of a possible 15-acre commercial development and 700 to 800 residential units on the transportation network was not adequately addressed. The analysis submitted by the applicant does not meet the standards for review of a comprehensive plan amendment. The neighborhood currently struggles with ever-increasing traffic on Lutz Lake Fern Road as well as the Suncoast Parkway. We live on a blind spot, and if you turn left out of this property and you hit a blind spot in the morning coming on traffic, increased density on this road will be very, very difficult to maintain. A project of this size will have far-reaching impacts to the regional transportation network, and there was no analysis of the project's impact to the network, available capacity relative to the impact, and the cost to mitigate those impacts. Water. The county's utility department stated that although there is water line on the south side of Lutz Lake Fern Road, it does not have sufficient capacity to serve the development with increased density. Significant improvements may be required to provide adequate water service to a future development on this site. The applicant incorrectly states that, quote, there is available capacity to serve the proposed development. According to the county's own utility department, that's not true. So what's the fiscal impact to the county to upgrade their system to accommodate the increased density? I myself, with our business, we had to increase our water line. That was our impact fee, that was our expense. So is this applicant going to abide by that based on their previous character and has not abided by any rules that Hillsborough County has set forth? Sewer is a similar situation with the nearest sewer line on the south side of Lutz Lake Fern Road. Solid waste, by the applicant's analysis, the proposed project will generate over 7 million pounds of solid waste per year. The applicant did not conduct any analysis on the potential impact of this volume of waste on the county's solid waste collection system, as required by Policy 1.1.94. Stormwater, the headwaters of Brooker Creek are located within the boundary of the subjected property. How will the development at this site, at much a higher density, affect runoff downstream in the Brooker Creek watershed? Will there be costs to the county to mitigate floodwaters coming off of this site in extreme weather events? Finally, if I have any moments left, my daughter brought home 14 ducks. We spent this weekend building a duck coop. And you know, we brought home 14 ducks from Corbett School because we had the opportunity and we live in a place where we can do that. And we're bringing those back in to show the class. So this won't be available to other students in the future.
Next up.
Papa?
Hey, I'm Jimmy Berry, and I'm Berry Acres Trail. You'll see that on the west side there of the property. I've been out there for 41 years with my family, and raised 3 kids out there. We've got 10 acres, probably, I'm guessing, about 900 feet along Dibbs' property. Let me get going on this thing here. The parks. The applicant provides a table that indicates how many acres of parkland will be required by development of the proposed project. There is no analysis of how many acres of parkland currently exist that could serve the development and what will be required by the county to meet the increased demand for parkland. What is the deficit and what will be the fiscal impact to meet the demands of the increased density of this project? Policy 1195, this policy relates to analysis of potential impacts to environmental and natural features. This property is highly sensitive property that is listed for potential ELAP acquisition. That would be awesome. The ELAP committee has targeted this property because it is the headwaters of Brooker Creek. Increased density on the site will increase stormwater runoff, creating increased downstream flooding. Increased density will also create future impacts on site environmental systems. The applicant has a history of citations from the EPC for impacts to wetlands and the significant wildlife habitat on his property. That's already happened. Allowing increased density will result in less acreage for open space and decreased protection of important habitats on this property. Policy 1196 is the crux of the analysis and reflects the necessity for relevant data and analysis to support the request. Applicant must provide the following: data that supports the need for expansion of the urban service area to provide the projected population and economic development needs within the planning horizon of the comprehensive plan. The need for more commercial and the need for another 1,000 residential units must be justified through a detailed analysis, none of which was provided by the applicant. It is not justifiable to ask and expect to receive without demonstrating why the need exists. Policy 1197, the applicant must demonstrate that the movement of the urban service area boundary would not compromise the efficient use of land and provision of public services infrastructure or the preservation of rural areas, agricultural land, or natural areas. This application.
All right. Next up.
Go ahead.
Gary Engelhardt. My property is immediately adjacent to the subject property. I have 20 acres with the long property boundary that adjoins the applicants. I would like to tell you a little bit about my background. I have worked as a professional planner for 30 plus years in Hillsborough County and throughout the state of Florida. I also have been certified during my career by the American Institute of Certified Planners, and I am here to present my concerns about this project. As you can see, expanding the USA boundary is a mistake. It increases urban sprawl, and it's a way that becomes a slippery slope and degrades the integrity of the urban service boundary in bits and pieces, and eventually it will nibble it all away as more and more property owners see just how you can do it. And is there a need that's been demonstrated for more housing and development to the level of potential that this applicant has proposed? A need for an increase in intensity and development pressure by a factor of 20, not a very insignificant, but rather a very strong and high level intense development. Do we need all of that kind of stuff when there is a need to concentrate it more in the urban areas, not come out into the urban areas where multiple lifestyles are encouraged by the comprehensive plan and nibble away and make everything the same? And what we're trying to do, turn it into Los Angeles? And that's where we go eventually, for the state of Florida and the metropolitan Tampa Bay area. And the expansion will not stop here. It'll become a precedent, as I've said. The applicant has owned the property for a long period of time, 10 years. He's had opportunity to earn a profit on the development with the borrow pit, and that has not really been enough to satisfy him. So now he comes in with a 20 times project that he wants to propose. The neighbors believe that we can have a suitable residential project that really mixes up the, really comes close to mixing with the neighborhood in a compatible fashion. So we know that we can do a large scale, large lot development on these 300 acres and make it compatible with the neighbors, not with what may be townhouses or an RV park or some other type of unacceptable use. The property owner is entitled to reasonable use, not to maximize his development potential to the fullest absolute potential that he can squeeze out of it. We ask that you find this inconsistent as your staff has recommended.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have Stephanie Fuller.
My name is Stephanie Fuller. I'm a resident off Lutz Lake Fern in Hillsborough County. I'm going to try not to repeat what's already been said. I wrote this letter in 2022 in response to the applicant's application RZ PD 221330. So he could build a 308 space RV park in this on this parcel. Let's see. So we've already listed what the Odessa Keystone Plan demands. Let's see, sorry. Am I allowed to address the RV park issue? I know you were asking earlier.
You can address whatever you
Do
like.
you want to
It's your
hear
3
that?
minutes.
Okay. Well, I didn't want to waste time. Okay, so motorhomes in general do not reflect the character of the surrounding area, which is one of the requirements, much less 308 of them. I did some quick math, some generous math of what kind of like a number would be 5,000 extra people per year. That's about 20% of the current population, or at least it was in 2022. New development and redevelopment must mitigate the adverse noise, visual, odor, and vibration impacts. RV parks, they have dump stations. That's going to be an odor concern. It includes a lake, which they have shown. The plan requires that the county should strengthen its efforts to educate lakefront property owners, considered the most effective method of protecting lake water quality. I just wondered how the county would do that with a transient population, turning over constantly. It's a 2-lane road. I believe we talked about traffic, what that would do during rush hour, before school, after school, or during an evacuation. This hasn't been mentioned, but across the street from this parcel and running parallel is in some parts, Upper Tampa Bay Trail, Suncoast Trail, depending on where you are on it. Kids use that trail to bike to school, to walk to school. You have runners, joggers, walkers, all that. I don't know that I would love my kids using that to go to and from school with a transient population like that nearby, or even me as an adult woman. I don't know that I would love that. So those are my concerns. These were my concerns back in 2022. This was not found consistent either. So I'm hoping that you will continue, like we have over and over again, to tell him that, no, it's inconsistent. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Jay Muffley.
Jay Muffley, President of the Lute Civic Association, here to support our friends in Keystone. We developed our plans at the same time, part of it together. Both plans were set up for no expansion of the urban service area, which is what this, I don't know how many times we've been trying to do this. It seems like I've been fighting with Mr. Dibbs for a few years. Anyhow, Lutz Lake Fern Road, in our plan, is to remain a 2-lane road. So, just to start with, it's not adequate for what they want to do. And what he wants to do is just absurd. You got the significant wildlife, you got the wetlands, and you got it both against both plans. I want you to support the community and recommend inconsistent. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. All right. So we had sign up in the public comment. So I will turn it back over to the applicant for a response. Oh, I didn't have your name. You can come on up.
Barbara Adderhold, Northwest Hillsborough County. Yes, I signed up earlier today because I couldn't, in good faith, not say something about these comprehensive plans. It's very important to note that the Keystone Odessa plan came into being in 2001. An important part of that is that the applicant purchased the property in 2004. He had to have it in the rural service area because he got this permit for a borrow pit back in 2006. But that wasn't good enough because in 2008, I've been coming down here way too long, but nonetheless, in 2008, he tried to opt out of the Keystone plan, making it be a donut hole, and he also wanted SMU 6. That got denied. Then in 2010-11, the Keystone Plan was renewed and reviewed, and analysis and 18 months of meetings again, and it was found consistent with the comprehensive plan. Not to be deterred, the applicant, that didn't come out right, did it? Not to be deterred, yes. The applicant in 2016 then decided to create a new land use category, and I've got to read this because I never can remember it. Rural, suburban, environmental housing. It's kind of like an oxymoron when you say the whole thing. And of course, in that land use overlay, you had to connect to water and sewer. You see there's history there of got to get into that urban service area. And of course, the companion CPA was to put this overlay on his property. That also got denied. So we've been here in 2006, we've been here in 2008, we've been here in 2016, and here we are, 2025. Staff has found it inconsistent, and I urge you to do so as well. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That is all we had signed up for the public comment. So,
How many people, there are people in the room that didn't want to speak, so if they want to stand up and be recognized. Thank you.
all right. Thank you very much. All right. Now, back to the applicant for a 3-minute period of response. Mr. Pressman.
Somebody put a lot of slides together. Oh, thank you. Mr. Chairman, board members, Todd Pressman again for the record. Appreciate all the comments from the citizens. I've known some of these folks for a long time and have great respect for them. County USA expansion criteria, number 1, adjacent contiguous to the established USA, which I've shown you it is. Contains developable land addressing population, which I've shown you it does. Proposed boundary would be an extension of an existing development pattern, which I've shown you that it is. Number 4, contributes adequately to the costs associated with infrastructure. Our planners told you that counties revise impact fees for covering those elements. proposed boundary would not adversely impact environmental, natural, historical, archaeological resources. We've not found that to be the case. Data supports the expansion of the U.S. state to provide projected population, which I've shown you. The entire population of the city of Tampa will be moving here in 2050. Number 7, proposed boundary will not compromise the efficient use of land and provision of public services infrastructure. And in fact, this expansion would be a tremendously positive element in terms of the efficient use of land and water and conservation and wetlands and preservation of the essence of the land upon which the alternative throughout Odessa Keystone is to use tubes to suck the water out and to use tubes to put septic systems, chemicals, and human waste in. So with that, when we looked at the expansion criteria, we felt that we met them. And I think the one other critical point, which I won't go deeply into, is that this little corner of the Odessa Keystone area is an enclave. It is different. It has a wide set of elements that I've shown you that no other property in the Odessa Keystone area has. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, board members. Thank you, folks who spoke.
Thank you. All right. Now I'll turn it over to our planning commissioners for questions, comments, discussion. Commissioner Orton?
I know we're talking about the USA extension. Is this part of that the county is initiating, or is this something different?
This is not in one of the areas that Planning Commission staff recommended to the Board of County Commissioners that be studied and that the board agreed to. So this is a private applicant asked for outside of that.
Okay, and another question. Mr. Pressman talked about impact fees, that they would somehow receive more impact fees, or how are you going to collect impact fees to pay for this infrastructure? Yes.
The best answer I can give you is from our planner, who noted and has placed in the report. The county recently revised its impact fees for mobility, parks, schools, fire, and utilities proactively in response to projected population growth and corresponding development. All new developments are now required to cover their proportioned fair share of impacts for associated services.
I know that the school is working on an impact fee study, but we're only allowed to do that I believe it's every 3 years, and it's a big study, and we are required to do that, and it's not easy. I'm just saying, because we are just now able to do that every 3 years. Just an FYI.
Thank you. All right. Are there any other questions or comments? I did have one question, actually one perturbation that we're probably going to talk about later on. But when staff brought this before us for the briefing, I asked for information about what was going on the north side there, and I didn't see it in the staff presentation, which, you know about me and repeating myself. I find it maddening over the past year how many times I've had to repeat myself. So put that down for us to chat about, because I don't know what happened there. So you want to respond? Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we have information on the Pasco County development. Unica Mills did get information from Pasco County, correct, Jillian?
I do have an explanation of what the residential 3 future land use designation is. I am presenting on behalf of Unica for this one. So I have an explanation of what the residential 3 in Pasco County is. Is that the information that you were looking for?
Well, Mr. Pressman already covered it, but I was just, that was kind of what I was asking for in the briefing. It was pretty much what Mr. Pressman did, so that's why I was a little bit perturbed by it. But my other question, I guess, was I noted something interesting, and I'm from District 2, so you're all my neighbors, even though sometimes you guys like to disparage us and say we're professional con men or whatever we are up here. I hail from District 2. I graduated from Gaither High School. I've been District 2 a very, very, very long time. So I feel your pain, and I agree with a lot of you. And for me to stay consistent with what I did in South County, I'm probably not going to support this one. Just like staff, I'm going to support staff's inconsistent finding. But I noticed something interesting in this one. When the South County urban expansion area came through, there was a lot of talk about how we just need to expand the line, and then everybody will be able to figure out how to pay for it afterwards. Now Commissioner Orton comes in and like I was saying back then, as I said in South County, when we do these kinds of things, we should have the Hillsborough County offices in here telling us what they're going to do, like they did earlier for South County. They did a great job. Hillsborough County staff brought all their people. They gave us some great explanations about how they're going to deal with this in South County. So for me, I'd want to know how this is going to happen in this area before I would be able to vote to approve something like this. So for me to stay consistent with the way I've kind of been dealing with these things, you know, I'm going to go with staff, I think, and find this inconsistent unless I hear something different from my fellow commissioners. I always listen to you guys' wisdom, so I'll make those comments and sit back and listen. Commissioner Kona.
Yeah, so I'll make a few comments. I appreciate Mr. Pressman's presentation. I live just south of the Keystone, Odessa area. I'm a big fan. I think it's a special place. I haven't heard enough today to talk about expanding, and I think, you know, having the county, that first of all, you know, as a former school board member, I represented that area. The infrastructure is not there for this type of expansion at this time, in my opinion. I do think I'm a big fan of targeted USA expansion because I'm a big believer in water and sewer for new development. Just that's how I am as far as that goes. I don't think this area is ready. It's a special place. I don't think there's a lot of infrastructure. I would like to hear what the county has, you know, in store for that area as far as just basic infrastructure, as far as roads and those types of things. But I'm also not going to support this today. So.
All right. Yes, Commissioner Cardenas.
Yeah, you know, I'm curious. Obviously, this owner's had this for a long time, and he's been trying to figure out what to do with it, right? At the same time, like, I feel like, you know, we are in that positioning, and we come across this often where we're trying to protect our owners' rights, but at the same time, that also comes into play where they are trying to come to staff and saying, hey, what can I do with this? Has that happened over that period of time? Or has it been mainly the owner presenting, you know, kind of what they wanted to do? Or has there been some good communication with staff where staff has suggested this or just that?
We've had a number of meetings with the applicant about, as I think was mentioned in the public comment, them wanting to do an RV park. And their initial rezoning being above the density that was allowed by their current land use category, which is 1 unit per 5. And I think was also mentioned that within the Keystone community, they're not allowed to have wetland density credits. And because of the large wetland area and the fact that they have a borrow pit on the site, both of those do not count towards uplands. And so that constrains the amount of units, but there's a conversion factor for RVs. At any rate, we talked to them about a number of different approaches to increasing the number of RVs allowed on the site that did not necessarily necessitate coming into the urban service area or changing to residential 4, because that we knew would result in an inconsistency finding from staff because it wouldn't meet the Keystone plan. But they chose the path that they're here in front of us today on.
Commissioner Sieben.
I'm mostly just curious, but do you have any knowledge of whether or not this Keystone plan was adopted before or after this property was purchased? Does anybody know the answer to that?
I believe what one of the residents stated was that the Keystone plan was adopted originally in 2001 and that the property was purchased after that.
Mr. Pressman, can you confirm if that's the case?
Oh, turn it. There you go.
I couldn't hear the question.
Was the Keystone plan approved and implemented before or after the purchase of this property by the applicant?
I thought I heard from citizen testimony that it was after. But I can't, I'm actually not sure. No.
Okay, thank you.
The public stated that the plan was adopted in 2001 and that the owner purchased it in 2004. So it sounds like it was adopted prior to purchasing it.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other thoughts? Any other comments from the commissioners? I'm not seeing a lot of excitement because it's after 8 o'clock, so I will go on ahead and close the public comment on this item and open it up to motions from the commissioners. Commissioner Kona.
Yeah, motion to find HC CPA 2504 map amendment inconsistent with the comprehensive plan.
All right, we got a motion of inconsistency by Commissioner Kona. Commissioner Kress?
Second.
All right, a second to that inconsistency motion by Commissioner Kress. Are there any questions or comments from the commissioners? Not seeing any, then we'll all signify their agreement by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, next up, we have HCCPA 2503 Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, Lutz Lake Fern Road, and the presenter is Jillian Massey.
Good evening again. This is Jillian Massey with Planning Commission staff. I'll now be presenting on HCCPA 25-03, which is the associated map amendment on Lutz Lake Fern Road. This request is a privately initiated large-scale amendment on a 308-acre site. The applicant is requesting a future land use change from agricultural, rural 1 to 5 to residential 4. This map amendment is submitted in conjunction with the one that you've previously heard asking to expand the urban service area. As you see on this location map, the site is in the northernmost part of the county, abutting the Hillsborough-Pasco County line. The majority of the sites in the rural area north of Lutz Lake Fern Road, except for approximately 13 acres on the south side of the road that is in the urban service area already. And this is, as we know, located within the limits of the Keystone Odessa Community Plan. This aerial shows the sites that's outlined in pink. The site's primarily vacant with wetlands covering most of the site except for the northwest corner where there's a burrow pit operation. The blue line delineates the urban service area, which runs along the Suncoast Parkway, turns west along Lutz Lake Fern Road to take in a rural subdivision, and then turns south again along the Suncoast Parkway. Lands to the west includes the subject site. Lands to the west, including the subject site, are in the rural area, and the lands to the east are in the urban service area. The area surrounding the site in the rural area reflects an established rural community consisting of homes on large lots mixed with agricultural uses and conservation lands. There is an island of suburban scale development to the northeast of the site resulting from earlier entitlements in the Upper Tampa Trail and Brooker Creek Headwater Preserve. A large conservation area is located southwest of the site. Looking east of the site and to the east of the Suncoast Parkway along Lutz Lake Fern Road, the area reflects a mix of rural and suburban development. There's Steinbrenner High School and McKendrick Elementary School located east of the parkway, and Cheval and Villa Rosa are larger planned communities that set the suburban tone. Of the area. There is a mix of retail and recreational uses such as the golf course and equestrian centers in this area. The aerial focuses on the subject site in Hillsborough County, and the next slide will zoom in more to discuss the relationship with the adjacent area to the north in Pasco County. This is a more zoomed in view of the northern portion of the subject site and the development pattern across the county line in Pasco County. The red star shows the general location of the site in Hillsborough County. In contrast to the predominantly rural and agriculture development pattern surrounding the site east of the Suncoast Parkway. The lands abutting the lands abutting to the north in Pasco reflect a suburban residential development pattern, and it is designated in Pasco County's Residential 3 designation. Beyond this view from the slide to the north, approximately a mile and a half from the site, the Suncoast Parkway intersects with State Road 54. This area is urbanizing with a concentration of retail uses and apartments. However, there's no local interconnected streets within unincorporated county to Pasco County. The only vehicular connection to Pasco County would be the Veterans Expressway, the Suncoast Parkway, or Angel Lane, which is about a mile west of the site. This is a photo looking north at the subject property. Again, another picture looking into the site from Lutz Lake Fern Road. Rural homes to the west along Angel Lane. Here we're looking at the Suncoast Parkway, which is to the east of the site. This is the adopted future land use map showing the site outlined in black. It's designated agricultural rural 1 to 5. The category allows for a maximum of 1 dwelling unit per 5 gross acres, and neighborhood scale commercial of up to 0.25 floor area ratio, subject to locational criteria. Lands west of the Suncoast Parkway along Lutz Lake Fern Road are primarily designated Residential 1 and Natural Conservation, or Preservation, excuse me. The Natural Preservation designation is recognizing the Broker Creek Headwater Preserve. And there is a scattering of properties also designated in the agricultural rural 1 to 5. There's land to the east of the Suncoast Parkway with a mix of public, quasi-public, recognizing the high school and the elementary school. And there's Residential 1 and 2, also located further east of the parkway. And there is an area designated to the south as Residential 4, but it's not within the proximity of the site. And as we've discussed, the proposal is to change the site to Residential 4, which would allow for 4 dwelling units per gross acre. This slide outlines the potential impacts of the change. Currently, under the agricultural rural 1 to 5, a potential of 61 dwelling units could be considered, and approximately 3.3 million square feet of non-residential uses subject to locational criteria. With the change to Residential 4, a potential of 1,235 dwelling units could be considered, and that non-residential intensity would remain the same. This map amendment was distributed for agency review, and the responses received are in your packet. No objections were received, although a number of concerns were noted, and those are also in your packet. Noted concerns include, but aren't limited to, that the Public Utilities Administration stated that the existing potable water and wastewater infrastructure may not have sufficient capacity to serve the development within the expansion area. And the school district stated that Hammond Elementary, Martinez Middle School, and the Steinbrenner High School are projected to be over capacity with the approval of this map amendment. However, the district stated in their response that this is not a school concurrency determination and that this determination is issued prior to preliminary plat of the site plan approval. Also, the Environmental Protection Commission stated that the site may present considerable permitting challenges due to the amount of the wetlands on the site. The amount of wetlands and the mitigation required would be determined and addressed at a later phase of review in the site planning and rezoning stage. Staff reviewed the proposal for consistency with the comprehensive plan and has found it to be inconsistent with several goals, objectives, and policies. The proposed land use change and the site's location, looking at rural area related policies and the Keystone Odessa Community Plan, We find that the proposed change is inconsistent with the following policy direction. Under the rural area, policies 1.2.1 and 1.2.4 provide growth and development guidelines outside of the urban service area. These guidelines state that new development shall reflect the character and scale similar to the established community. Further, per policy 1.2.1, within the rural area, densities shown on the future land use map shall be no higher than 1 dwelling unit per 5 gross acres unless located in an area identified with a higher density land use category on the future land use map as a suburban enclave, planned village, and a planned development. The proposed amendment is inconsistent with these rural area policies by seeking to increase the density to a suburban scale that would allow for up to 4 units per gross acre, and that scale is not comparable to the established rural development pattern and character of the area. Also, the proposed amendment is in direct conflict with the Keystone Odessa Community Plan by seeking residential 4. One of the main goals of the plan is to prevent the intrusion of the suburban-style residential development by maintaining low-density rural residential development with a minimum of 1 unit per 5 gross acres, consistent with the comprehensive plan. The amendment does not align with the vision of the community plan and a number of strategies within it, which intend to preserve the rural character of the community. Lastly, the policies relating to compatibility and neighborhood protection and neighborhood development provides guidance on determining compatibility. These policies promote a strategy to focus on introducing new uses that maintain the character, scale, and density of the existing community. The proposed amendment would introduce a potential of a major increase in density from 1 unit per 5 acres to up to 4 units per gross acre, which would be disruptive to the rural character of the surrounding area and does not reflect rural homes on lots averaging 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres as an average size. And as previously mentioned, the proposal is in direct conflict with the community plan. And so based on those considerations, Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed map amendment be found inconsistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the applicant have a presentation?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. This is HCCPA 25-03, 308.89 acres. Jillian's given you a good presentation. You've heard a lot from me already. I'm not going to repeat a lot of it. Population increase, which we've substantiated. Area of the application, which is a small enclave, unlike any other. Although the plan shows R1 surrounding, as you've seen, there's actually very intensive cluster residential development surrounding, including Pasco County. Emphasizing again the current site. The surrounding USA areas, 2 that are abutting on the north and the south, regional view. The substantial impacts of the roadways in the immediate area, which was a investment by our government and governments, local and state, for providing support for development area, arterial roadway, Veterans Expressway, what it carries, Pasco County. You've seen all this in terms of its intensity for compatibility and cohesion. The site itself, which is spectacularly rural looking and screening and buffering. Again, Ortiz Planning Solution noted that the area is of a suburban character and portrayed with suburban density on small lot, clustered lots, generally within planned communities, provides a rural-esque setting. And what's proposed will be consistent with the abundant development to the north and within Pasco, necessary to preserve the substantial amount of wetland and appropriate considering the value of the land. A lot of policies that you should be aware of is 1.3.1 Goal 2 response that the land use reclassification will result in a character that will be compatible with the nearby land. Expansion of water and sewer to serve the site will better the environment. The request to reclassify the subject property recognizes a gradual transition of intensity and density is necessary to support the current and future populations. Response, again, continues, which is consistent. The proposed land use change for the maximum over density of 4 units per acre is consistent with the residential development existing in the area. The Keystone Community Plan desires to retain its rural residential character as an area of lakes, agricultural activity, and homes built on various lot size and a scattered development pattern. In response, it's assumed, of course, that a cluster development will be required here to be utilized to ensure the cohesion between the natural and built environments, to ensure compatibility between the new and existing uses, maintain ecological balance, protect natural resources, and allow for a consistent aesthetic. Additionally, petition will allow development consistent with the existing community, which maintains and preserves environmentally sensitive areas. Water and sewer lines are adjacent to the property. And cohesion between the new development and existing communities will reinforce the community identity. So again, in terms of scope, this area is a very small area. It's a very unique, one of a kind that matches no other property in the Keystone Odessa area. It is an enclave. It's a distinct, isolated area that is enclosed within itself and would provide response to the entire housing chapter of your comp plan. So with that, I'll leave you with that rather than go through every substantial point again. Appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. We will go through our public comments again. We will start and go the same way we did last time. So, Ms. Whitehurst, you are first up to bat.
First off, there's no property in Keystone that is the same as another property in Keystone. It's all unique. That's what makes it special. Keystone Civic Association, we're all here to deny CPA 25-03. Res 4 zoning is urban suburban zoning and is not possible without approval of the HC CPA 2504, which was denied. Residential 4 zoning is not compatible with the current land use of agricultural, rural 1 to 5, nor is it compatible with the surrounding properties in Keystone Odessa, zoned AR5, Res 1, and AR1. This site currently has a special use permit issued for land excavation. The borrow pit on this property showed a total surface area of excavation of 63.43 plus acres with significant wildlife habitat. This property is located in the 100-year floodplain and the site contains wetlands. Per our Keystone Odessa Community Plan, no transfer of developmental rights into the area or density credits for wetlands are permitted. Mr. Dibbs filed an unsuccessful lawsuit against Hillsborough County in 2015, case number 15 CA 000257, to be exempted from Keystone Odessa Community Plan. Some notes in this lawsuit. In 2008, Dibbs applied for 2 amendments to the comprehensive plan, Plan Amendments 08-09 and 09-01, to remove the Lutz property from the Odessa plan to allow the Lutz property to connect to adjacent public water and sewer services and to change the future land use from agriculture rural 1 unit per 5 acres and residential 1 unit per acre to suburban mixed use 6, residential development up to 6 units to the acre, commercial developments up to a maximum of 175,000 square feet, and industrial development. The Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners denied the plan amendments because they were not consistent with the Keystone Odessa plan. Mr. Dibbs filed an appeal to the 11th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals, and these judges affirmed the district's court's grant of summary judgment to Hillsborough County. The judges noted, and I quote, "Similarly, the county's refusal to allow Dibbs to build a dense residential development on its Lutz Lake Fern property is rationally related to its goal of protecting the area from urban sprawl," unquote. Thank you.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
Jane Whitehurst.
All right. I'm going to pause for a second here and jump online because I missed one person who's online. Jessica Hillebrand, you can go ahead. Hildenbrand.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to start my video. I'm not sure how to stop it now. I apologize. Okay, good evening. My name is Jessica Hildenbrand. I live at 6125 Marsh Trail Drive in Odessa. I am a resident of Terramore, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself, my family, as well as by the directive of the Terramore HOA Board of Directors, representing over 200 homes in our community. Terramore is the subdivision which borders the subject parcel directly to the east. The Terramore subdivision is firmly against these planned amendments. This is a massive increase in intensity and density, which will impact our quality of life. Terramore is zoned PD with a future land use designation of Res 1. Res 4 is a massive departure from the surrounding property FLU and is not compatible with the development in the area. Terramore was zoned PD in 1998 with a density of 1 dwelling per acre, long before the Keystone Odessa Community Plan was adopted in 2001. The property before you has no such vested rights. This property is also not suitable for Res 4 future land use because of its major environmental importance. The property has massive amounts of wetlands along with a significant upland wildlife habitat. Information obtained from the Hillsborough County Environmental Lands Management Division confirms the headwaters to Brooker Creek and its entire watershed start on the wetlands located on the subject property. I had a map that I was supposed to show, but I'm not sure how to do that, but I'll just describe kind of what was shown, which is where the Brooker Creek begins on the property, as well as that the Brooker Creek Headwaters Nature Preserve also is represented in his property. The water flows from the wetlands located on the subject's property north of Luke's Lake Fern Road through a culvert and onto the Brooker Creek Headwaters Nature Preserve, which then flows into Pinellas County and Lake Tarpon. The Res 4 density of this property will have detrimental impacts to the water quality of Brooker Creek due to fertilization, runoff, litter, spills, and other human impacts. The application has even stated the use of an RV park, RV trailers, use temporary flexible sewage hoses that can easily leak or spill. Raw sewage spilling into such sensitive areas will have direct consequences to the Brooker Creek watershed. Additionally, the applicant has shown not to be in a positive environmental steward while operating a burrow pit at this location since 2008. The applicant has a long history of various deficiencies and violations of the SWFWMD ERP permit, county special use approval conditions, and the county's operating permit conditions for the burrow pit. The neighborhood fully expects the negative environmental impacts to continue tenfold if a Res 4 future land use is approved.
All right, that's your time, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Melissa Nordbeck.
Melissa Nordbeck, because of the late hour, I won't go into any deeper comment. I just want to quickly point out that there seems to be some disingenuous comments about well and septic, that there's straws in the ground, there's going to be raw sewage leaking everywhere. When you have a well and a septic, you have specific setbacks between that well and that septic. You have a setback requirement from your neighbor's well and their septic, and you have a setback requirement from the wetlands. So when people want to extend utilities into the rural area, it is just to increase density, period, and that is to get the central utility line. You have to have, per the Keystone Comp Plan, 1 full upland acre in order to install a septic. That is how we control the density in our area, as well as the zoning, the future land use, and the map. So it's very disingenuous to say if you don't allow the utilities, we're going to have straws and it's going to pull all the water out of the land. That's not true. Also, the comment that no one's making money on agricultural farming in our area, also disingenuous. There are other agricultural and farming that are making a living out there. Horse boarding operations, produce stands. There are a lot of greenbelt exemptions in our area because it is a rural area. So I just wanted to point those few things out to you. There's a reason that we want to keep the well and septic. There's a reason that we want to keep those agricultural uses in our area. And no USA expansion means no utilities per 2318. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have our quartet, starting off with Ms. Hammer.
Oh, I sing alto. My name again is Ethel Hammer, and I live adjacent to the property to the west. One thing I've noticed in the presentations is that nobody has really focused on the fact that the properties to the west are not Res 1. The properties to the immediate west are agricultural rural, and that is what my property is. That is what the properties of several of the other people in the room are. So if Mr. Dibbs were successful in changing this to Res 4, we would be 1 to 5, and he would be 4 units to the acre, a 20-fold difference. Mr. Pressman has said, well, this property has the urban service area boundary on 3 sides. Well, it does not. The property to the east is Terramore, and that is not in the urban service area boundary. It is Res 1, and it's grandfathered, but the county specifically stopped the urban service area boundary at the expressway. So that property is not in the urban service area boundary, even though it does have water and sewer. Mr. Dibbs' property is not an enclave. I question Mr. Pressman's definition of enclave, but it is no different than any other property that's a large property in the Keystone Odessa area. It has development potential in and of itself to develop large lot residential. It's not unique. You know, we're talking a lot about the comprehensive plan, but we also have to keep the community plan in perspective, and how this request is so radically different than what the community plan wants the future of our community to look like. There's no transition. This property, if it were to be changed to Res 4, again, even besides the 1 to 5 strip of land that belongs to or is reflective of our properties, then there's the rest of the immediate area is Res 1. So this would be the only property in that whole part of the Keystone Odessa Community Plan that would be Res 4. Very incompatible. Mr. Pressman in his presentation said the density of 4 units to the acre is consistent with the surrounding area. It is not. And with that, I would ask you to please find it inconsistent.
Thank you. All right. Brittany Berry?
I unfortunately have to freestyle this one, so it will be short. I don't want to waste your time. I know that everyone is getting a little tired. I want to speak to this applicant's lack of concerns for other neighbors, as he has been over the last couple of decades that he's been there. There's been numerous violations on the current borrow pit that he has. And for one small example, I spent Sunday night herding a cow back onto his property because of the lack of fencing that he has. So that cow in the picture escaped, and the fencing is deteriorating between our property and his. No one's on the property to take care of these animals. So that's the current state of what we're dealing with. So I can't imagine having more development and more responsibility. And then lastly, currently under the land use, he can develop property. He can develop 61 homes per the Keystone Odessa Community Plan. So there is a lot of money to be made on this property, and it's not like we can't do anything with the current land use. There's a lot of things he can do and abide by the current status. Thank you.
Thank
Can
you.
you state your name for the record?
Brittany Berry.
Hi, James Berry. I'm back again. Just want to say that out there in Keystone in Odessa, we like it dark out there. We don't like street lights. We don't like sidewalks, and we don't like sewer and water. We like living out in the country. And that property is exactly next to our property. So there would be looking at, what, 5 homes per acre, 4 homes per acre, whatever. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, next up, we have Gary Engelhardt. There you go.
Gary Engelhardt. Let's consider Pasco County. Pasco County is a red herring. The property in Pasco County, come on now. Yes, there's a higher intensity of development, and it is quite obvious for any of us that go up there, drive on those roads, that development on State Road 54 is a nightmare. And it's not something I hope that we would want to emulate in Hillsborough County, in our area. Pasco County does not provide service to Hillsborough County development. They don't provide water and sewer. They don't provide fire or EM service. They don't provide anything except the appearance of a kind of development pattern that we don't need and don't want in the Keystone Community Plan. Pasco County is not responsible for widening any of the infrastructure or making any other improvements as part of their capital improvements program. They've already made a mess out of State Road 54 up there, in my opinion. Deduct time for paper that fell on the floor. The school system does not educate our students. Solid waste does not go into Hillsborough County at all. They don't take care of that. So the bottom line when we talk about Pasco County, I said it was a red herring, it's an attempt to justify approval of the application on the basis of development intensities that are illogical and inappropriate. Long-range planning for growth in Hillsborough and the Keystone Community Plan has been done on the basis of the existing comprehensive plan. And a property of approximately 300 plus acres developed at up to 20 times the development intensity of the current plan is something that would require reevaluation by the county on their capital improvement program, and they certainly would like to avoid that, I'm sure. And it is something that would also bring into question additional funding that would be needed to support that kind of infrastructure that is not there to serve it now and in the near future. Ask that you find this to be inconsistent with our current comprehensive plan.
Thank you. Next up, Stephanie Fuller. I have nothing new. All right. Then we will go on to Jay Muffley.
Jay Muffley, Lutz Civic Association. They covered part of what I had to say. The urban service area divides the western boundary between...
Hang on a moment. Clerk, can we get the time started? Make sure we... Okay, go for it.
Okay. With the exception of the upper piece above Lutz Lake Fern, the urban service area is the boundary between Lutz and Keystone's plans. Except on the southbound side, it's other things, of course. And we both agreed on a lot of stuff when we made these plans. And was to keep the urban service area out. I have a very similar rezoning in my area right now, where they want to go to Res 4. They want to bring in sewer and water, and it's just not right. And I ask that you follow the plans and find this inconsistent.
Thank you, sir. All right. Last but not least, Ms. Adderholt. Okay. All right. Back to the applicant for a 3-minute response.
Mr. Chair and board members, you've spent a lot of time on this. I will keep this short again. Respect the comments from the citizens this evening. We've had a good discussion. I do want to hit on a couple points. One is Ethel is correct. On the mapping I showed, it does show the U.S. line correctly along the interstate, but I did state it on 3 sides, although water and sewer is located on 3 sides of the property. But the USA is abutting to the north and south and very close to the east. It is really bad policy. The state, Hillsborough County, and City of Tampa spend hundreds of millions of dollars to revise and remove well, and septic. It's bad public policy. I'll state again, as my 8 years on the Swift-Mud Governing Board, 1 year as chairman, there's a wide variety of programs and huge projects to remove those elements that poison our land. It's just bad public policy. And putting water and sewer in is great public policy and would be a tremendous advantage for Hillsborough County, Pasco County, and the state of Florida. The fact is that the site really is singular and unique. It is. It touches or comes very close to a major Veterans Expressway, part of the Turnpike system. There's water, sewer on 3 sides, USA on 2. It does abut high-density residential, particularly to the north on Pasco, which your staff refers to, but we think it deserves a tremendous amount of more weight, and has tremendous buffering and screening, and is located at the border of the district. So, with all due respect, I wouldn't call that a red herring looking at Pasco County, because a normal part of evaluation of all the projects you do is to look at the land use densities and uses that surround the site, which Pasco County includes. And I do recall some policies that talk about looking at and considering densities and categories that are surrounding in nearby counties or jurisdictions. So again, with that, we appreciate your attention, appreciate your consideration, and look forward to moving this issue forward. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Now over to the commissioners for comments, statements, stories. I'm not seeing any. So going once, going twice. I'm going to close the public comment on this one and open it up to motions from the commissioners. Anyone? Commissioner Kona.
Motion to find HCCPA, I believe it's 2503, comprehensive map amendment inconsistent with the comprehensive plan.
All right. Motion of inconsistency finding by Commissioner Kona. Is there a second out there? Anywhere, Commissioner Bowden? All right, we got a second by Commissioner Bowden. A motion of inconsistency by Commissioner Kona. Are there any questions or clarifications needed by the commissioners before we take our vote? Seeing none, then would all signify their agreement by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Next up, we have item 2H, HCCPA 2505, Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment 6920 East Chelsea Street, and the presenter is Willow Mickey. Let's keep it down as you leave the room. We're trying to continue on and get done here.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Willow Mickey with Planning Commission staff.
Excuse me. Please take the discussion out of the room. We have more stuff to cover. Thank you.
I am here to present HCCPA 25-05 located at 6920 East Chelsea Street. This is a privately initiated map amendment that is small in scale and approximately 3.74 acres. The applicant is requesting to change the future land use category from residential 6 to light industrial planned. This is the general location map. The site is in the urban service area and within the limits of the East Lake Orient Park Community Plan. This is an aerial photo of the site outlined here in pink. It is located north of East Chelsea Street and is southeast of I-4. Within the vicinity of the site, there are light commercial uses to the west and single-family uses to the east. Interstate 4 is to the north, and across East Chelsea Street to the south, there is public, quasi-public, and heavy commercial uses. Now we have site photos of the site. This photo is looking towards I-4 from East Chelsea Street facing west, and the site is to the right. And I just want to note that the cars that you see in this photo are parked in the cul-de-sac and are not on I-4. This photo is looking at the subject site from East Chelsea Street facing northwest. This is a view of adjacent single-family residential homes to the east of the site facing north, and the site is to the left. This is looking at the subject site from East Chelsea Street facing north. And this is a view of Florida Chemical Supply, which is to the west of the site facing north, and the site is to the right. The site is in the residential 6 land use category. It allows for the consideration of agricultural, residential, neighborhood commercial, office uses, multi-purpose projects, and mixed-use development. Surrounding land use categories include residential 6 to the east, west, and north across I-4. There's research corporate park, light industrial planned, and office commercial 20 uses to the south. The request is to change the site to light industrial planned, which allows for the consideration of uses such as agricultural, light industrial uses such as processing, manufacturing, recycling, and storage of materials as the predominant uses, including support offices, warehousing, and retail uses. No residential is allowed under this category. This slide outlines the potential impacts of the requested land use change. Currently, under residential 6, the site could be considered for up to 22 dwelling units, or approximately 40,728 square feet of non-residential uses. The change to light industrial planned would not allow for the consideration of residential uses, but would allow for up to approximately 122,185 square feet of non-residential uses. The proposed amendment will result in the potential increase in commercial intensity and the introduction of industrial uses. It would eliminate the potential for residential development. The proposal has been reviewed by the commenting agencies, which you can find in your packet under the agency review section. There were no objections. However, the Fire Rescue Department have concerns regarding the property to the southwest of the site, which is the Florida Chemical Supply, as they have responded to hazmat calls for chemical releases in the past. The Community and Infrastructure Planning Department also have concerns due to the transportation analysis not being sufficient according to Hillsborough County standards. The proposed request is inconsistent with the following objectives and policies of the comprehensive plan, including flu policies relating to compatibility. With the single-family residential abutting the site to the east, the proposal for light industrial plan is not compatible with the surrounding area. The LIP category typically involves higher intensity uses that would be too stark of a contrast compared to the single-family homes and could disrupt the existing character of the area. The proposal also does not meet the intent of Flu Objective 4.4 and Policy 4.4.1 that require new development to be compatible to the surrounding neighborhood. In this case, the surrounding land use pattern is comprised mostly of light commercial uses with the chemical company to the west and single-family residential uses to the east of the site. The proposed request would not complement the area with the surrounding neighborhood to the east. The proposed change of future land use from Res 6 to LIP would not support the vision of the East Lake Orient Park Community Plan. The vision of the plan states that new development in our communities does not adversely impact the existing neighborhoods. The proposed change would not support the vision of the plan, as the development on the subject site would be adjacent to the residential uses and would impact those neighborhoods. Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed map amendment be found inconsistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Does the applicant have a presentation?
Good evening. Colin Rice, the law firm of Older Lundy, here for the applicant, Protect 34th Holdings. I did submit a PowerPoint. I don't know if that's available. I have it in paper, too, if that's easier.
Should be in there. They'll check for you.
Nope. Okay, there we go. Thank you. All right, Colin Rice again here for the applicant. It's been a late evening, so I'll try to be swift for our benefit here. I want to thank staff for their time and attention to this application. We've heard a lot about LIP today and compatibility, so I'll draw on some of that discussion and hopefully streamline things a little bit. But at the end of the day, what we're requesting we feel will be compatible and consistent with this neighborhood, and I'll help explain why. So the specific request, again, is to go from residential 6 to light industrial planned. It's a small-scale amendment, 3.7 acres, and we are within the urban service area. Again, light industrial planned. So to orient you, again, we're adjacent to I-4 in East Lake Orient Park, just to the west of Orient Road. And R6 to the east, west, and north, we have Research Corporate Park with FDOT-owned property to the south, which is heavily vegetated and full of wetlands, very unlikely to be developed. There's also a Penske truck rental further to the south. And as Willow alluded, to the immediate west is the chemical supply company, so not a residential use. So zooming in on an aerial of our site, we're outlined in red. Chelsea Street dead ends into I-4. That used to be a bridge, which was closed due to an eminent domain proceeding years ago. So it cul-de-sacs and dead ends into I-4. And again, the property immediately to the west, cornered by Chelsea and I-4, is Florida Chemical Supply. So it's just a street view of the dead end along the left. You can see a little bit of I-4 there, cars parked, and then the chemical supply company. And I apologize, this is a little older photo, but this is our site facing north. And then this is facing east along Chelsea. To the right is the FDOT-owned property that's heavily vegetated and heavily wetland. And then to the left, again, is the beginning of the residential single-family neighborhood. So a lot of the groundwork has been laid talking about light industrial plan today, but not every comprehensive plan category has a planned component. This is very important because it allows us to commit to the site plan controlled zoning process and mitigate and control against some of the factors that had been addressed earlier. So this is from the intent within the comprehensive plan. The need for site plan would be beneficial to ensure land use compatibility, and impacts can be addressed through careful site planning, which is certainly what we intend to do. There is an application submitted. I won't go into the details, but just so you're aware. So the types of things that you can control with the site planning process, which is an important and considered part of this designation, things like the overall intensity of the site, the types of uses, the setbacks, the widths and the types and opacity of buffers, where you situate things on the site, how you configure things, reasonable conditions, hours. There's a lot that we welcome the community to come to the table and talk about so that this is appropriate for the neighborhood. And we're very aware and very sensitive of the residences. So drawing in a couple of components from the staff report, and again, we're grateful for their time and attention. The LIP category would be consistent with the map. It's stated in the staff report that a PD rezoning would be required. We're committed to that. We've started that. And crucially, the Affordable Housing Service Review recognizes the need for higher wage manufacturing jobs. They conclude that and recognize this property was never intended for residential, and they support the future land use change. So I think when viewed within the light of the planned component, which I fear staff may have underemphasized in the staff report, I think reading the policies cited within actually support what we're asking for. Through careful site planning, we can mitigate against the higher intensity uses. A lot of them won't be on the table, and we can create this transition to the neighborhood and buffer and make sure things are appropriate. Not to mention the additional job opportunities pertinent to a request like this. Specific policies 3.1.2 in the staff report calls for professional site planning. Of course, Goal 7 and Objective 7.1 about economic opportunity. So to conclude, we abut an interstate highway, we abut a chemical control plant, a chemical supply company. We're across the street from government-owned wetlands. We feel this is a very suitable site for carefully managed LIP. So with that, I will conclude. I appreciate your time this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. All right. We didn't have anyone sign up in the public comment for this one, so I will turn it over to the planning commissioners for questions, comments, discussions. I see Commissioner Sieben ready to go.
Okay, so you said that the property to the west is a chemical plant?
Yes. Well, it's a chemical supply company.
Okay, and that's allowed within Res 4 presently, I assume, Steph, it's a question.
It's
for
happening.
Steph.
We don't represent them.
Yeah, I don't know that that would be an allowable use under residential 6. So I don't know whether they have been in existence since before the comprehensive plan was put in place, or whether they are an illegal use. I don't know what the state of it appears they're operating, but I don't know the status of whether they're doing so.
And
appropriately.
just to confirm, on the east side of the site is all single-family homes, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, yeah, that chemical plant thing or chemical sales thing kind of changed it for me, because when I was first looking at it, I was trying to toss it up, and I don't like the res, and I do like the LIP, but I didn't like the fact that it's going to have more heavy vehicles driving past the neighborhood. But if there's a hazmat issue going on at the end of the cul-de-sac, it seems like this might be a good buffer between, the residential and the chemical. But obviously that we don't know how that's operating or what that's doing, so we can't really consider that because it's not official.
Ask staff if we know the zoning on that piece to the west. Yeah, the parcel to the west, if we know the zoning, because that might give us an inclination as to whether or not it's
Actually,
like legitimately there or not. Yeah.
okay, yeah, that was an interesting wrinkle for me when that came up. So now I'm kind of like, well, now it could be a good buffer between the neighborhood and, what's going on right there. At first I was kind of like, I don't want them drawing a bunch of traffic down. But like I said, if you've already got hazmat stuff going down and the fire department's making trips down there all the time, you know what I mean? This could be a way to sort of buffer. So I'm kind of tossed up on it now, and we'll listen to what the other commissioners have to say before I make my final decision. Commissioner Seaman?
Question to staff. So what uses are allowed specifically under Res 6?
While they're looking that up, I'll answer that. Residential 6 would allow for residential support uses, office, neighborhood scale commercial. So CN or CG, they would need a waiver to the locational criteria because they're not at an intersection. But given the other non-residential uses and their isolation, they might have a good case for a waiver to locational criteria for something like an office or a commercial use, but it stops it at the commercial general zoning district, and so that would not allow for commercial intensive or manufacturing light industrial uses. So.
Hi, David Hay, Planning Commission staff. The site to the east, to the west, is CI. CI, so it probably predates the comp plan.
Sorry.
That's the current zoning for the site to where that chemical processing.
And sorry, do you know the current zoning on this site? Does anybody know the current zoning on this site? Is it in our packet? I missed it.
It's Colin Rice again for the applicant. The current site is zone PD, so it's approved for, I believe it's RMC 12 historic uses. It's early 90s zoning conformance PD and a Masonic Lodge. It used to be there.
All right. All right. Are there any other comments, questions, thoughts about any of this? Everybody shaking their head no, Commissioner
Sorry,
Seaman?
I'm sorry, everybody.
No,
Okay,
keep
so
going.
what are, how does this go with light industrial plan? Like, what is the process for determining a plan and questioning the plan and figuring out the plan?
So if the board was to approve the land use category, then the applicant would come forward with a PD rezoning, and that would get reviewed by Planning Commission staff and the Board of County Commission. Oh, they would go to the zoning hearing master and then ultimately the Board of County Commissioners. And so they would that would be a site plan oriented zoning, so it would have the opportunity to, as the applicant mentioned, address things like buffering, screening, building placement. They could limit the uses through conditions. Some applicants have chosen to limit things like hours of operation, were mentioned. The one thing that is challenging to limit, and one thing that staff had concern about, was the access to the property, and that it does necessitate, because the road doesn't connect to the west, the access coming past that residential neighborhood. But certainly a lot of the other impacts potentially could be addressed through the site plan or the conditions of zoning.
Commissioner Kress, yeah.
I'm sorry if I missed it, but have you had any conversation with the neighborhood, and what has the reaction been?
We've gotten no feedback from the neighborhood yet. As part of the next phase, we will be hosting a neighborhood meeting. As far as I know, I don't believe anybody's attended tonight. So we've got no negative feedback. There was one letter in the record, but was mostly concerned with the chemical operation and said that we were good neighbors. So,
All right, Commissioner Kona.
Yeah, I think for me, I think it's very similar to the one we turned around earlier tonight. And for consistency, I think, so we don't look schizophrenic on this board, that we probably, I'm probably going to make a motion to make this consistent.
Okay. And we're going to need some policies probably. So just so everybody's getting ready. Commissioner Cardenas?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the area. We've got a good majority of it is some version of industrial or light industrial. I don't, in some of these areas you see things, we see it turning different ways over time, right? But then every once in a while we have some areas that are just kind of this little weird mishmash of in between. And I feel like that's kind of that. We have a need for industrial, light industrial, that is something that we need more of. Yeah, it's just, it's kind of like one of those, at least I feel like it's a little disappointing for this small community that's there. But at the same time, it's such a small community, that little area right there, in comparison to everything else that's going on there and the highway right there.
All right, Commissioner Sieben.
I couldn't find it, but the one we approved earlier tonight, was it bumping up against residential homes as well? On the backside, okay.
Yeah, across the street to the north, there were homes.
So, but not abutting?
Not directly abutting, no.
It's only
All right. Are there any other comments, thoughts, discussions from the commissioners? Going once, going twice. Then I will close the public comment on this one and open the floor up to motions from the commissioners on this one. Commissioner Kona.
Yeah, motion to find HC CPA 2508 consistent with the comprehensive plan based on flu goal 7 and 7.1.
All right, so we have a motion of consistency by Commissioner Kona citing flu goal 7 and was that objective or policy? Objective 7.1. All right, is there a second out there anywhere?
I'll second that.
All right, Commissioner Kress has the second to that motion of consistency finding. Are there any questions, comments, clarifications? Yes, Commissioner Bowden.
Well, this one I can support. I know that area, and you probably won't get a comment from the community because they're not very participatory, and I do think that's ideal for something like that.
All right. All right. Well, any other comments from the commissioners before we take our vote? Then would all signify their agreement by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Last but not least, item 2K, everybody sighs. HCCPA 25-09 Comprehensive Plan Text Amendment, Valrico Community Plan, and the presenter is Andrea Papandrew.
Yeah. Good evening, Andrea Papandrew, Planning Commission staff. This is HCCPA 25-09 Valrico Community Plan. So the community plan was about a 15-month process. So I do have about a 10-minute presentation tonight, but I'm going to go through it as quickly as possible. So this is a publicly initiated text amendment. On March 1st, 2023, the Board of County Commissioners directed staff to initiate the process to create the Valrico Community Plan. If adopted, the Valrico Community Plan would be the 23rd community plan to be created and adopted into the livable communities element of the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. So the map shows the proposed boundary for the Valrico Community Plan. It is within the urban service area. The boundary goes north to Sydney Road and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, east to Dover Road, south of Lithia Pinecrest Road, and west to Sefner, Valrico Road, and John Moore Road. So this is a creation timeline for the community plan. The process began in spring of 2023 with the Board of County Commissioners' initial request. Staff started our initial community meetings in the summer of 2023. Throughout 2023 and 2024, community engagement and data collection continued. And then final community meetings were held in the fall of 2024, and the last in-person office hours were held in February of 2025. And this is scheduled to go before the board for transmittal on June 12th. So multiple methods were used to engage the community, including 4 rounds of community-wide meetings, in-person office hours, and 4 online surveys. Staff also launched a project website and were requested to present to 3 community groups. Additional detailed information about all of our public engagement is in the non-adopted background report in your packets. So the results of the engagement are a vision, 4 goals, 17 strategies, and multiple sub-strategies composing the Valrico Community Plan. So the full community plan vision statement is in your packets. I'm not going to read it word for word tonight. I'm just going to touch on some highlights. So a couple highlights: the compatible suburban character while maintaining a rural identity, compatibility of new development, protection and maintenance of natural, green, and public spaces, bicycle and pedestrian friendly connections, and infrastructure that is balanced with growth. So the community input and feedback provides staff direction for 4 goals. Goal 1 is infrastructure, timely provision and maintenance of public facilities and infrastructure. Goal 2 is on development, compatible land use and design. Goal 3 is mobility, safe connections for all modes of travel. And goal 4 is the environment and recreation, so preservation, conservation, and restoration of natural areas, parks, and recreation areas. So the full list of strategies for each of the goals is in your packet as well. I'm going to highlight a couple for each goal tonight. Goal 1 is on infrastructure, identifying funding and alternative funding source opportunities, providing infrastructure to support existing and proposed development, and prioritizing projects related to the safety and mobility for motor vehicles, pedestrians, and bicyclists. Goal 2 is on development, which encompasses many aspects of the community, such as commercial development that fits the character of the area, compatible design and densities, to recognize and protect historic properties, and strengthening code enforcement and security. There are strategies for implementing the Brandon and Valrico plan policies for properties that are in both community plans. Staff did take into consideration the Brandon community plan and found no conflict between the 2 community plans. So on the screen before you is the Valrico concept map, also included in your packets. The hatched area indicates where properties will be in both the Valrico and Brandon community plans. One of the key themes of the community plan is balancing growth and maintaining Valrico's small town character. So one of the ways to accomplish this is Goal 2, Strategy 1, on supporting commercial clustering in a neighborhood node. So a neighborhood node is outlined in pink on the map at the Bloomingdale Avenue and Lithia Pinecrest Road intersection. The intent is to support the redevelopment of commercial uses and to cluster new commercial uses. The neighborhood node recognizes the already commercialized area of Bloomingdale Avenue and Lithia Pinecrest Road. By clustering commercial, it avoids the extension of strip commercial development outside of the node and would provide a transition with surrounding residential uses and allows for more compatible development within Valrico. The node also provides a focal point for future investment, such as multimodal transportation improvements, connections, or developing new public uses. Commercial can still be built outside of the node. It would just be subject to commercial locational criteria, which is in the future land use section. Goal 3 is on mobility. Strategies include improving multimodal connectivity, relieving traffic congestion, enhancing access to community facilities, and enforcing truck route regulations. Goal 4 is on environment and recreation. Strategies include protecting the environment, providing quality recreation opportunities, and improving stormwater management. Proposed amendment received no objections and included comments from the following agencies. Staff have worked and will continue to work with these agencies on the Valrico Community Plan and any other policy initiatives. The proposed amendment is consistent with the following objectives and policies of the comprehensive plan. A community plan looks at all aspects of the comprehensive plan, which is why the consistency review includes multiple sections of the comp plan. So the community plan is consistent with the One Water section objectives 4.2 and 5.2 and policies 4.2.1 and 5.2.1 on minimizing adverse impacts of septic tanks and potable water and wastewater connections for development within the urban service area. It's also consistent with the future land use section policies on neighborhood protection and compatibility between new developments and surrounding neighborhoods. The proposed amendment is also consistent with the following objectives and policies from the mobility and recreation, mobility section and the recreation open space sections. The community plan is consistent with several mobility section objectives and policies related to increasing safety and interconnectivity of all users, transportation infrastructure repairs and replacement, and connections to schools, commercial uses, neighborhoods, parks, and other community uses. It's also consistent with the recreation open space section, specifically policy direction on providing a system of active recreational parks, regional parks, preserves, and trails. So based on this, Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed text amendment be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. So that includes presentation, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We didn't have anyone sign up in the public comment for this one, so I'm going to turn it over to the commissioners for thoughts, comments, questions, and discussion. It seems like nobody is moving or excited, so I am going to go ahead and close the public comment on this item and open it up to motions from the commissioners. Anybody? Commissioner Kona.
Motion to find HCCPA 2509 consistent with a comprehensive plan.
All right, a motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Kona. Is there a second anywhere out there? Anywhere? Commissioner Cardenas, second? All right. Got a motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Kona, a second to that by Commissioner Cardenas. Any questions, comments, clarifications needed from the commissioners before we vote? Not seeing any, then would all signify their agreement by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That is our last agenda for the item for the night. So at 9:27, this meeting is adjourned. Good night, everybody.